Right, we're back for Summoning Insight. Different day, but that's because I had something going on yesterday, so don't worry about it. Luckily, every single league in the world has ended, except in the second tier of EMEA Masters and all that jazz. But all the other leagues have finished, even the former LCS, which, by the way, we'll definitely spend lots of time on. It was actually a banger final. I thought it was pretty good, actually. But we now know all the teams for MSI. I think I know where we start, Yamato. The reason we have to start with LCK is because we did actually get ahead of this problem something like 3 episodes ago, where you pointed out like that if you actually looked, there was no final for LCK, and it was this bizarre road to MSI where, like, here's the thing. I know what Dom means. Like, technically, you could still just treat it as if it was a gauntlet that didn't quite work the same way as a gauntlet, because obviously now with theory, T1 should get to play GenG, but they don't. But if you look at the fact that T1 did beat Animal Life, and that was first versus second, so in a way you can look at that as a championship. Like, to me, it does still feel like they won the championship. They came first place, whatever. But it is bizarre because I have to say, just as the outset, when I look at the LCK, it always builds into a finals for me. You know what I mean? Like, the finals is when it really feels like that was the season. I mean, I even think to myself, like, even, by the way, even some of the things, if you ever watched the old finals back in the day, even like seeing them collect the big checks and stuff was like part of the season. That was kind of like doing the house cleaning at the end, then you know the season's over. I do find it a bit jarring that we went through all that. I mean, think about it for GenG, especially, bro, they didn't lose a series the whole season. They won every single BO3, and then they won the BO5, which, by the way, is also such a bummer because, like, bro, like, that also would be historic. But now there's no final, so technically they did finish first, but only because only one team was allowed to contest them for first or whatever. Right? I just want to get your thoughts on that before we get into the games, because obviously it was an interesting series. What do you think about this format thing? Like, are you at peace with it now? Is it okay? What do you think?
It's not okay at all. It's so awful. You brought me back to, I remember watching in season 3 after the whole moment of like with the Z versus Z and SKT like winning the finals, and then you have like the ceremony where they force the third place team to stand there. They're forced to like collect the check too, and they look like miserable, and then they bring out KT, and then they like distribute the MVP awards, and it's this whole ceremony that is like really like a spectacular event at the end of the season. And scaling down on that, for me it's like on 2 fronts. I had the same take as Dom, pretty much, where I'm looking at what the actual format is, and in terms of declaring a winner, I am at peace with someone being first in a regular split with a best of 3 double round robin and have that being declared a winner, as if being top 2 kind of qualifies you to a final. Obviously, this is not what the LCK like presented, so the state of mind is very different. But looking at what that means and what that represents, it's not some wonky format where somebody got like a first place regular split. It's like double round robin best of 3. It's like the purest form of like really declaring who is the best at the end. And I think always the formats have been quite honest. There was moments where T1 was, of course, an outlier. I think the KT1, of course, stands out, where they went 17-1, and then they chose T1 and lost in playoffs twice against them, right? Definitely there's outliers, but in this case too, coming into that best of 5, T1 versus Hanwha Live. Hanwha Live was the favorite by far. And T1 obviously won now, so everything changes. But for me, I know that people are going to look at this GenG spring split, and they're going to look at it differently because they weren't declared the winner. And for me, that's extremely disappointing, because in the conversation of what the legacy of these players is going to be, I want the split to be remembered as an insanely dominant split, and it should be like a star on your, studded jacket of like accomplishments for the likes of Chovy or Canyon or anyone on that GenG roster for that matter. And I wanted to be remembered as such. And no, there was no winner. It doesn't matter. It wasn't that big of a deal. Those narratives really hurt my heart. So there's a part of me that obviously wants to point to the fact that someone needs to be declared the winner, but in the end, I think it's just extreme failure. It's like the fact that we don't get GenG versus T1 now after what we saw, it makes it even worse. and there was no outcome that would have made it fine unless Hanwha Life maybe like just 3-0 T1, and it's like, oh, I guess that's it. But even then, Hanwha Life against GenG was a reverse sweep. Like a rematch would have been insane. So it just sucks across the board. I just give us a name. Who was responsible? Who made this decision? Like someone. They're probably gonna change it for next year for sure. But who made the decision? Who made the decision? Please tell me, Thorin.
No, I mean, I actually do think there's like a bigger topic to discuss here. So, but you dived into the specific teams. I'll do that in a second. But just on the bigger picture, it's because supposedly, at least I've read this many times online. So, like, I don't think it's a completely fabricated narrative. I would believe this is potentially what they want. People claim that apparently in Korea, they want it like this. They want it to be that there's only one champion for the year. That's whoever wins summer. And that LCK Cup, the first split, one we're treating as winter. Remember, they don't count that. They're saying that like, as if that's like a Kesper Cup that was just really long or something weird. And then they're saying that in this case, spring is just qualification for MSI. And then it's like summer's the real one. And because here's the reason why I could believe that is plausible, Yamato. Because that is nice and neat if you're in Korea and you want to say the champion of Korea is whoever was the #1 team going to Worlds or something like who was the team of the year. Easy. You put it so you can't get it wrong at your awards, then can you give it to whoever wins summer, unless someone else wins Worlds, obviously. But you know, like I can see how to someone who's not in the game, which by the way, this is a key concept to understand. Western esports is pretty fucking bad for having all the people with the money and the power have zero interest in the fucking video game. It's pretty bad for that, I'll tell you that right now. Like if you know the amount of times, Yamato, I know the people who like formed ESL and ran it, who are literally Quake 1 players, and when they're at the event where like Counter-Strike and StarCraft, they're not even watching the matches, mate. Like the greatest match ever is going on over here. They're not watching because they're not a fan of that game, bro. To them, it's just kind of cool that like esports, obviously they want a career. That esports, anyway, Korea is way worse than that, mate. Korea is literally, because remember, think about how their culture is set up. Their culture is literally like old men run everything. So even in esports, if you ever saw the people, mate, who were in charge of like Kesper and some of these like organizations, mate, I don't even know if they could tell you the units in StarCraft. Like these people look like they know nothing about the game. They're just businessmen who that's their business. Instead of it being, you know, selling fucking washers to put in something in a washing machine or like some widget on a fucking car, they happen to work with esports, video games. That's their niche that they're in. And so one of the reasons why I say that is I can see how someone who doesn't watch the games would think, like traditional American sports, it's better to have one season that leads into one champion. It seems really neat. But obviously, as you pointed out, anyone who has the direct visceral experience of watching the actual tournaments over the years knows how awesome it is to have multiple tournaments. I mean, I always say this to people. If you've ever watched a sport like Formula One or tennis or poker or fucking snooker, sports that have an open type circuit with loads of competitions, not just one big championship, you'd never vote to go back. You'd never go, nah, get rid of all that. Just have the whole year be a league into one chat. No one would ever say that. Like actually everyone I think seems to get how cool it is to have tournaments. So bizarrely, the reason why this one's mental to me is you still did a tournament. Like here's what's so mad, Yamato. If you only want it to be a road to MSI, just make it just the regular season. Do you know what I mean? Just have it that like whoever the top two teams placed were. Because then you could even argue, by the way, you're not getting any flukes. You're getting the two actual best teams just sent to MSI. Like do that. And then by the way, at the end of the split, there's nothing awkward. There's none of this like, yeah, but now that T1's beaten Hanwha Life, why didn't they pledge it? There's none of that. It's just whoever was first and second, you're at MSI, congrats, see ya. And it's even in that scenario, as weird as it sounds, it's less of a blue balls. Because as you say, the real problem here as well is GenG didn't do you a favour. If GenG just 3-0'd Hanwha Life, then who gives a shit? But they didn't. They almost lost. That means now, as you say, you want the run back. And also now, then when T1, even though this is MMA math, then beats Hanwha Life, that then makes a T1 fan go, wait a minute, maybe we could have beaten it, even though that was never something they were thinking before, which we'll get to in a second. Don't worry about that. So I do think it's absolutely terrible. I think it's so stupid because basically what you've actually done is design a system where it has every single feature of a normal LCK split except the most important historic match of the entire thing. Like essentially, again, if you're that guy who's just some Korean businessman who doesn't watch the game, you are a fucking idiot, mate. You might have succeeded in business for all I know, but in the actual game, you are beyond fucking stupid. You've basically just designed a World Cup with no World Cup final. Well done. Well done, you utter cretin. So after the semis, well, we'll just never know who wins the final, Yamato. Let's all just go to sleep. never knowing who won the final. Because if you go now into the specifics, oh, by the way, actually, I've just realized before I go into the specifics, I've got to do what you did. I've got to address why this is so important for history. Because, by the way, I'm so beyond fucking bored of 17-year-old idiots who don't know the history of esports. And frankly, let's just be real, don't care. Telling me that if I have an opinion, I reverse engineered it off who I like. So the logic should go, you obviously like Chovy. If I like Chovy, why wouldn't I want to be a final, you dickhead? He was about to just give Faker the business for like the third straight year or something insane, like my fourth at this point in time. Like, I want to see him fucking destroy Faker. In fact, that's the thing that tilts me the most, is that, like, in the same way as I do think the person who is now going to be the most boosted in the history of LEC, get ready to get upset, is Yike. Do you know why it's Yike, Yamato? Because he got to play like fucking something mental, like 3 championships a year. No, 4. He got to have a crack at 4 titles a year, and every other great player in history up till like 2020, whatever, had 2. So that means on paper, when you go, he has like 9 champions. He doesn't, by that logic. He doesn't. Meanwhile, if I go back in time, what? Does Mithy just have a couple, does he? Like, what are we doing at this point in time? You know, what's even the equation here? Like, the joke is, Yike's probably already caught the fucking Yankos' championship thing just by being in a year where you have just more tournaments set apart, don't you? So already I hate that there's no comparison. It's not the same. At least in football, it's like the game changed, but a lot of the concepts stay the same, the way the leagues run and stuff. So you can compare that to some degree. And then also, the other thing that's a bummer is, you know that how this works, mate. Fans don't ever stop and think, yeah, but that championship was in an era when there was like 3 or 4 and that was not. No, they just take each one as like that equals that equals that equals that. So they do treat any LEC split win now as an LEC split win 5 years ago. And the reason that's a problem is because when Faker has the record with 10 for LCKs, right, you have to remember that includes the OGNs, guys. In OGN, there was 3 splits a year. Then in LCK, there was 2 splits a year. Now, if we're not counting LCK Cup, there is 1 title to win every year, Yamato. So that means if you are Chovy, you have to just win for like 5 straight years now or something mental like that. Right? That just ruins the historical element, mate. Again, same concept in tennis. So everyone knows Djokovic set the record for Grand Slams, but there's 4 a year. Imagine if we just went down to 2. Well, now for anyone to beat his record, it's actually like way harder. It's not even about now winning the fucking competition. So I do think already that just ruins the historical framing. And in this scenario too, I'm not talking about like decades later. It's only a fucking year or 2 after we had the good formats. Like, why can't we just have that still? So I hate that. And then you referenced it. So we'll talk about this because we can talk about the games now. I also think you couldn't engineer a worse set of results to actually make the lack of a final worse. There's been plenty of splits, you know this, where like one team was dominant and won and was never going to lose and they were always winning 3-0 or 3-1, or, you know, it was like there was only 2 good teams and then one was way better than the other one. So it's easy. Like, and by the way, here's what's so sad, Yamato. That's what it looked like. It did look like before the upper bracket match was played, it did look like, oh, well, it's not that big a deal in terms of the match because it's always going to be GenG that wins anyway, and Hanwha Life's going to be second best. So then let's reverse engineer the worst results. Like my joke, if it wasn't for the fact match fixing is such a big deal and so verboten over there, I would even make the joke that like what patriots all these players were in Hanwha Life, GenG and T1. They decided to show the world why you need the final. Because what they did was they took GenG, the unbeatable team, and had them go 0-2 down and then barely win in game 5 with epic play by Chovy. By the way, that already, 1, makes you want the rematch, like you said, and then 2, makes you realise, actually, because playoffs are a different beast, it's not the case that because GenG won so easily in the regular split that we can just ignore that they could have lost. They could. Maybe they could. And then secondly, once Hanwha Life almost wins that game, now all you need to, again, not be too concerned is, yeah, true, if there was no final, like you said, there'd be no rematch. But as long as Hanwha Life is the second best team, we don't have to worry. Then the system sort of holds. So what you then do is you have KT murk everyone for like 2 weeks, then just get shit stomped by T1, and then T1 just destroy Hanwha Life. So at the end of it all, and I'll point this out on Twitter, but it's so true. Here's how we actually caught the T1 fans finally. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we got them. Here's how I'm telling you we caught the T1 fans. Because, bro, before that fucking T1 Hanwha Life match, all T1 fans, I can tell you, thought they were going to get destroyed by Hanwha Life, especially after Hanwha Life 3-2, almost 3-2 against GenG. They all And so I'm telling you, mate, it wasn't until the 3-0 happened against Hanwha that anyone talked about, yeah, why isn't it a final? Like, these motherfuckers didn't want a final, mate. Because here's the thing, I'll tell you what, the reason why they've had to shift all their narratives to like LCK doesn't matter, Faker just, chills their wits for Worlds, which is the real metric. It's because they know he loses to fucking Chovy every final. They don't want to see that again, mate. If you're a big fan, like, it's actually, the joke is the only people this benefits actually is T1 fans, except it doesn't. And here's why. Here's why you're so foolish for when it didn't suit you being fine with there being no final. Because actually, as we've seen now, I don't think you would have won, but you would have had a chance. You would actually have had a chance in this fight. If they played the way they did in that Hanwha Live series, you would actually have had a real shot at winning, especially because I do think, let's talk about the matches now. I do think even in the GenG Hanwha Live one, mate, the interesting thing about GenG is some of those players do still have, like, I won't say a chalk, but they certainly do play worse in big pressure playoff games. Like, we've seen this in all the splits now. In regular seasons, they're probably the greatest in history, mate, this court. It's unbelievable. But I'll tell you what, I've seen them in all these playoffs. Remember, even that first spring one when they got this top side was the 5-gamer against T1. Like, they definitely do actually have pressure things occur with them in the matches. What do you think? Let's talk about the GenG versus Hanwha Life one. Because obviously on paper, this was supposed to be the 3-0, like an or a 3-1 where you just walk, you have like one game where they get the perfect draft and get a Baron and then, but the other, you're supposed to just dog walk them on all the others. This was way too close, mate. Way too close.
I think from GenG's side, the main thing that was highlighted was things that we saw in the regular split too. I think the standout was Ruler's performance. I think this year, like in contrast to his team, he's just been like the weakest performer.
Well, the best way to say it for real is he isn't even the best player in his lane. That's not even a diss. Yeah. It's true. The duo guy is actually better at the moment. His role, he is. Just is the Yamato. Even though that sounds impossible to say in history, because one, it's Ruler and he's had a bunch of bomb supports. And two, it's Ruler, but it's true. He's actually the worst player on GenG, isn't he? He just is.
Yes. And Keen also has been like up and down. He's like finding footing on some of the champions he plays. Like in that game one, GenG, I think they were in positions to win that for sure. I think like Hanwha Life's inconsistencies, especially from like Super and Jungle, is affecting the map so much. It's like if Delight and Peanut are not having like clean games on champions that we believe are like stock standard Hanwha Life champions, there is a luxury that I think that Zeka and Zeus have gotten like really, really accustomed to. I think Viper is always like insanely solid. I think Viper's still probably like just the best AD in the world, like looking at how much, how consistent he is and how he delivers regardless of the state of the game. But that first game, there was that moment where like they overreached, they overextended, they got caught on that mid wave. They kind of overreached, looked for an ending that wasn't possible. And then I think as the series progressed, the main thing for me that stood out was just like the massive difference in mid lane. It's like Chovy's form. I don't know how he finds a way to just surpass himself, because looking back at the spring finals from last year, we had that crazy run from Chovy where he literally like dragged teammates that were underperforming in Pays and Lehens all the way to a championship, and somehow he finds a way to just maintain that form even in a Fearless format, which should have been like the biggest challenge to Chovy. I feel like the Fearless being a part of the game now is probably like the best thing that could have happened to Chovy, because it forces him to go out of this mindset where he just keeps picking the same champion over and over again until the series is over. It's like he's practiced on something, has a clear list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now in Fearless it's just not possible. So I thought, oh, maybe Chovy is going to lose some of that class or some of that elegance because he doesn't get the same amount of repetitions. And then he just comes into the series, game 5, drops a Zoe that we haven't seen since like 2021 when he was like on Hanwha Life. It's like the level of play he showed across the series, massive gap over Zeka. And I think that GenG, the main thing for me is just it's similar to how we saw in the season when they got pushed to game 3. Their game 3s always looked so damn vicious, and then over time I just felt like Canyon and Chovy just figured out how to get control over what the match was, and to be able to exude that level of control. It's like, oh, this is what the series is, this is what the series requires, and recognizing the direction against a nameplate list that includes Zeus and Delight and Peanut and Zeka. To be able to do so is like SS plus level of gameplay. I think these two guys just walk into MSI as just by far the best 2 players in the world. This GenG roster is unfair, but also the fact that Canyon and Chovy are peaking the way they are is just, incredible. Like, I think watching that series, they reverse swept. But in some strange way, while watching that, I didn't feel like it was a reverse sweep. I never was worried for some reason. Maybe it's like psychological watching GenG the entire time, but I never thought the series was truly over. I didn't even consider the psychological impact on Hanwha Life getting reverse swept until they actually got blasted by T1. It didn't feel like a reverse sweep because GenG just played with poise. I didn't really feel like there was a point in time it was like, oh, they're collapsing, they're affected by this. They're like, oh, this is the series. Let's have a little Aurora here in game 3. Ooh, they're playing against Silas. Sejuani Jax, maybe it's dangerous. And then Chovy just diffuses the Silas. They find gank timers, and Zeka probably had one of the worst Silas performances that he had ever, if I can think back post DRX 2022 era.
Easily. I mean, you have to realize in that particular scenario, mate, they win the series if he just fucking does it, and it's his champion. That's like one of his signatures, bro. It's still not a bad champion now. It's not like it's out of the meta and he's forced it in for no reason. And it's not like Aurora's fucking, oh my God, what we got to know. I actually think, if anything, by the way, the joke about this final is the person it helped the most is Chovy, because he's supposed to have some like goated Hall of Fame all-star teammates, but then actually in these finals, sometimes they do let him down or play a little bit average, or they get beaten by, by the way, it's not like Hanwha Life or slouches. They've got some real, the joke is both teams are basically the all LCK fucking squads, so like they got really good opponents, but Chovy himself just plays unreal in nearly all these games, mate. It's mental, innit? Like his actual level has elevated. I know what you mean. Like the difference is if you're down 0-2, but they're both stomps, then that's where I think that's where you get a lot of 3-0s in history, because then psychologically the burden of like, you don't even think you could win one game, never mind 3. But actually, I know what you mean. The way they lost these games, even though it sounds like cope, if I was their coach, I'd be like, guys, we're right in these games. Like, this isn't even a problem. In fact, if anything, you can even use the cope of like, if you underperformed in this game, what if you play normal? Don't we just win the game out? Don't we, like, I think that's a totally chill angle. And I'm with you as well, by the way. I do think you have to acknowledge as well, it wasn't just like GenG just fucking bent over. People like delight of fucking smurfing in some of these games, mate. Like remember, people always miss this, right? Because people do the LCK thing of like, whoever the team that wins all the games is must have all the best players. Well, no, I'm with you. Like, both parts of the bot lane Hanwha Life are better than fucking GenG. For me, GenG and Hanwha Life is like the fucking thing where the all-pro team correctly in Europe was like top side Casey, bottom lane Fnatic. That was like kind of how the strengths went. So you look at like, I agree, by the way. This is the reason why I've always thought Viper actually got a little bit too little credit in the last year or so when the team got really good, because people just forgot that like this guy 1v9s when he's in shit games, mate. He just does. He's actually one of the best ADCs I've ever seen. His mental just staying together and him just like keeping clicking buttons, mate. Like that, I can tell you from knowing a lot of ADCs, because that whole role is like a slow build up till you get your chance to have impact. It's really fucking mentally grinding if you feel like over and over again, I'm always in the scenario where I have no peel, I can't fight, I haven't got my fucking setup in the team fight. Like, this guy's fucking sick, mate. Like, I don't care that he hasn't won that many championships. I put it this way, I do put him in that category with Uzi, Deft, Root, the greatest ADCs of all time. Because you just watch the games, take the nameplates off, take the competition off, just watch the games. He is unbelievably good. And what people forget is, this is like the time when he can be the super carry. Or this guy will absolutely just sacrifice and be like a fucking Ziggs player if you want him to. If the meta is like the solos are going to carry it, then he'll do that too, mate. So I think that guy's a stud too. No diss to him. I do think he's one of the all-time greats. But mate, Chovy in this series is just unreal, though, isn't he? It's also so funny because actually, for people who don't know, this is where Chovy himself has changed over the years. Let's talk about that a little bit. If you go back in the day, he was way more one-dimensional. Like, the funny thing is, the early days when it was actually only LS used to hype him. Back in the day, remember, you had your choice back in the day. You had Showmaker, was more like for me, he was more like an Alexic play with the team type carry guy. You had fucking BDD, who was kind of like the fucking, super awesome until you get to the big match choker guy. We're talking about the 2020s here. You had Faker, who wasn't like great with his hands anymore, but still was like the clutch player. And if you give him a chance, he sets up his team as a captain. You actually had this really like diverse set of mids that were all different styles. The funny thing, Zika wasn't even relevant at the time. And then the joke of it all was Chovy was the guy where it's like, I farm and then I just turn off my comms and I just go to a side lane. And you just better hope that later on I just walk, there's a team fight happening and I have a team fight. Like, this guy was not the player he is now. Whereas now, mate, not only now has he gotten every year I feel like he's gotten better as the team fighter. And mate, he's not just a team fighter now. He goes for this is where I know T1 fans. You don't watch League of Legends, you just watch T1. Because you know when Faker made all those dope players in this Handball Light series, they were going, Faker's the only one who would even go for these players. Even in the one he fucking lost, by the way, when he tried, the BDD one where he tried to flex on BDD and go under the tower, right? If you say that, you literally don't even watch the games that are being played now. Because, Chovy has won his last couple of championships doing exactly that sort of insane. He did it like 3 times this split against T1, I think. Like, the amount of times now Chovy has that moment where actually he goes like killer instinct mode and just does some crazy outplay that, like, when you're watching it, mate, you don't even think they can complete it and win and then they win it and you're like, what? Like, he has done so many of those in the last 2 years. It is fucking nuts, mate. That's why, if you notice, I went from being like he was a truly great player to like, I just think he is just the best League of Legends player I've seen in the last 2 years, mate. Like, when he hits that like 10 out of 10 level, guys, it is better than Faker, and here's why. Because Faker was doing it 10 years ago. You all make fun now. I know it's how fans do this, mate. They would all make a comment about how, like, some pro from Season 3 sucks, because they'd be like, anyone could do an insect kick now. Well, then, by your logic, all the players Faker made, everyone can do who's in Platinum now. Like, the difference is, only one person can make the players Chovy's making right now. Literally only one. It's him. That's it. So I do think, like, as much as part of me for the narrative would have liked it to just be GenG just cleans the series up, and wins it nice and easily. And I do think it does suck. That I agree with you. It gave me blue balls. Like, I don't get to run that series back again, just to see either way which way it would go. But for the Chovy performance, this final will be remembered, mate. It was unbelievable. I thought it was genuinely one of the best I've ever seen.
Chovy's career has been so interesting because it's like in the beginning he was like his Griffin days. He was playing champions that nobody else was playing. He was playing like melee champions. There was conversation about this guy should be a top laner. He was playing like, he was known for like Irelia mid. Like Griffin was a very, very explosive team. And like the main criticism towards him back then was just that he didn't take enough agency in a series when it was necessary. Kind of the thing that people did with Viper in this series is like, oh, why is Viper on playing MF and Jin and being useless in these games? Like, why is he allowing this to happen? Similar to like Viper when they played against Bilibili, when he ended up like going 4-5, playing MF against like Galio, Kindred, and all these champions that could just dive on him. And then the progression is like, I remember because I prepared against Chovy specifically 2021 when he was in How Life. This was already like this year, even though he didn't win anything that year to me is insanely impressive because he did so much with a roster that wasn't super impressive. It's like, sure, he had Deft on his team, but at the time...
That's it. Just a Deft, that's it.
And it's like looking at the rest of the roster, it's like that roster was very, very flat, and he was doing crazy shit to even pull this team across the finish line, to get him to, of course, quarterfinals as Worlds that same year. It's like the opening year on GenG, I think that was like the hallmark of, oh, this is just, he farms, he lanes super well, he's going to dominate you, but when the game gets dynamic, he doesn't kind of like keep up. But then that 2023 final that they play, I don't remember if it was spring or summer, but then he was just like taking over the map with Talia, just roaming the whole map. And I was like, oh, damn, this is a key point of Chovy's development. And then I think lightning struck perfectly in that spring playoffs where he follows this recipe where he just slams the champion over and over again. And there's beauty in that because that series that they played, I believe, against How Alive, where he carried the game, that was like 5 games of Azir straight. He would just play 5 games of Azir. And obviously going to MSI was like the perfect meta for him with the Aurelion Souls and the Kokis, which was still very, very like Chovy-esque. And then going to the World Championship, the flaw of his approach showed again, because usually Worlds comes down to is like who is capable of doing on-the-fly adjustments and steer away from prep that is spotty at most because you have very limited practice between the days. You travel, maybe you don't have scrims, you got a media day, you gotta like find conviction. And then in that, of course, series against T1, he stuck to playing Ari, and the ship had already sailed. Everyone's playing Galio, everyone's getting Silas. But now in an era, as I mentioned before, it's like now with just Fearless being here, he is not allowed to do the thing that he did best, and also what was his biggest flaw when it came to competition. And the fact that he's playing Zoe in a game 5 and is playing it as if he's an OTP on it is just crazy. So looking at this series, knowing Zeka, coming into that game 3, they had the Silas Sejuani Jax. I thought this would be a game that, How Life as a team, they will not lose, It's like, these are the champions that if you are blindfolded and you're drafting Wuhan Life and you don't know what the enemy is picking, you're completely blind to it, you're picking a little Silas Sejuani and a melee champion top, and you make it work because it's Peanut and Zeka and Zeus. But they fused that coming into game 4. It was also like the Yon invitation. He picked Twisted Fate, pre-buffed Twisted Fate, and they played this draft that only GenG can execute with the Cho'Gath and then Canyon on Lee Sin. You just know it's like most of the time, it's like Lee Sin lock-ins are gonna make me nervous. But especially in that spot, playing against Lulu, playing against Maoka, it's going to be very difficult to execute. But then he just finds, the game-breaking angle with the kick from the Fog of War on the Nash attempt because they were just getting completely poked out. It's like this GenG team and Chovy are just doing things that no other team can do. Like that game 4 draft, I don't want to see any other team in the world play it. It's only GenG that I want to see. I don't want to see any other team play it. And coming into MSI, I think not winning the tournament would be a massive, massive disappointment. And that's like an understatement. It's like they should win this tournament, especially due to the format, because the format's very honest. There's no randomness here.
Also, what's funny is the one angle I guess LCK does set up is maybe we can now have T1 GenG at MSI. That would be a fun way to still sort of resolve it. And obviously be the international component there. I mean, I think that's actually a part. I'm with you, by the way. Especially in light of how the LPL went, I think the winning this tournament is, as far as I'm concerned, which one else he came at. GenG is the favourite for MSI. Like, they actually should win. They should get another MSI title. That's logically the way it should go, especially because the fact that that's BO5 double a limb. Listen, you could beat them in one series. It's going to be really hard to win 2 BO5s. I don't care who you are. Like, even if you get, let's say, I don't know, here's the problem. I personally don't think anyone's Legend can actually match up. I actually think that's a bad matchup for them. Maybe BLG has a game where, their hands just excel and they do some insane shit, like Knight does some crazy playing bit, and Keen has an underperformance against bit. Maybe that can happen, but who's winning the other one? You know what I mean? You have to win twice to stop these motherfuckers. So I think they're going to win MSI, I've got to say. If we flip to Hanwha Life a little bit, though, bro, the first thing I have to say, before we even get into the fact, it was right there for them. There are 2 people I'm underwhelmed as fuck with in this series. That is easily, first and foremost, it's not even Zeka. I know everyone went on and on about him because everyone, to be fair, they used to all those game 5s and all like the big clutch play. True, he did play badly, but I don't, put it this way, here's the difference, Yamato. I don't think I'm crazy. I don't expect him to beat fucking Chovy. I think Chovy's unbeatable right now. The one that I was really disappointed in was Peanut. Don't you think Peanut kind of had an ass series in this one?
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially like game 5, when he rolled out that Lilia, I knew the series was over. When he rolled out the Lilia, like I'm screaming for Amumu. I'm like, I know Peanut, pick Amumu. This is Lilia for people with arthritis. Like just lock it in. And then he slammed Lilia. It's like he opened fine, but even that game 1 was quite a steal. But it's kind of like the Hanwha Life way, especially this year. Like even in winter, even though it's fun and like it was a very exciting journey to romanticize like how close all of those cities were and so forth. Hanwha Life didn't have a clean journey all the way into like winning the LCK Cup. It wasn't clean at all. And I feel like Hanwha Life has been up and down in spring, and I feel like this series kind of showcased that things are kind of catching up to them. I think that level of let's say inconsistency in regular splits, eventually you can't cope your way out of it. It's like you have a certain aura that you carry. It's like, oh, game 5, best of 5 is going to do better. You can hold on to that until that image kind of shatters. And I think Hanwha Life have showcased a lot of weakness throughout spring. They've showcased a lot of weakness throughout winter too, because there was a different world there where they like lose against the T1 that is playing Amumu, Draven, Akali. It was very, very likely.
You're right, yeah.
And then everything maybe would have been different. And maybe to this day, maybe Hanwha Life would have been better if some of those things were highlighted and a lot more clearer, because there's a certain level of gameplay that they just didn't get away with. And I feel like GenG got that wake-up call in winter, because in winter, Canyon was kind of on and off. I didn't think that he was like performing super well in winter. Canyon has had regular splits that were very, very disappointing. But GenG kind of hit the ground running from the get-go in spring and never let go, because we saw Canyon and Chovy kind of perform throughout the entire regular split. Because in terms of like regular splits, I think this is probably one of the best of Canyon's regular splits ever.
For sure, yeah.
Especially in recent years. And I think that's that adds up. It's like that level of effort, the level of input, and having a higher standard than regular split just matters, because Hanwha Life, after that illusion was shattered, it's like their mental coming into that T1 series, like it's clear as day. I don't want to be the guy who is like armchair psychologist, but it's clear as day that they were completely shattered after that reverse sweep.
I also think as well, when you look at, oh, by the way, there's a detail that a lot of people missed, which is even though, yes, this means Hanwha Life has fucked up and they don't get MSI, because T1 was the champion of EWC, now you get Hanwha Life as well at EWC. So you actually get 3 Korean teams at EWC. So just an interesting data. That means actually there is one reason to, here's the thing, it's not that I don't care about that tournament, but there's an extra reason to care about it now, because it's one of the only places you can see Hanwha Life for Worlds, basically. So also, I will say, even though a lot of people noted this, it does make First Stand look shit that like only Flying Oyster is returning. Like every other team isn't going back. But that's actually a good thing if you think about it, guys. One, I agree, that makes the format not very good because it's just one team from each region. There's only fucking 5 teams. But it also shows that all the regions are more competitive now, which is good. Like actually, if you go and look, there's a reason why all those teams are represented by the same squads. Because it's like actually every region has like 3 or 4 teams that are actually legit now, can really challenge for the title. By the way, swap it over, because I don't think it's too much to say about Hanwha Life. I think this final said it all. The problem is, if you talk about the Hanwha Life T1 series, there's nothing about Hanwha Life to talk about. It's all fucking T1, right? What's funny is the T1 Globe was kind of interesting because I do think that like they did look very good in the KT series, but I don't think a lot of people put stock in KT. If anything, KT just sort of like killed the narrative of D Plus and Longship. I don't think anyone actually gave them real credit that they could win that series and go to the not final, the whatever the fucking last qualification match is. Brilliant naming system. But the way that T1 killed them, aside from that like BDD fake play, wasn't that interesting. Like basically, by the way, maybe we can just comment quickly on this. Some things do never change, Yamato. And BDD is just a fucking long-suffering fucking legendary player who's just never going to... You can tell they're just going to do him dirty on his way out, mate. It's just going to be years of this shit at the end. The sad thing is that what you were talking about years ago, where he had that final where he had that split where he was in first place, the 2023 summer, from there onwards, it's been downhill the whole way. It's so sad. Because this guy, you still see it in the games. Like, no, one thing that's really cool about Koreans is they're not lying when they do those interviews where they say, like, if I lose, it was my fault and I'll try harder next game. That's real. That is their mentality. And you can tell this guy plays for real, Yamato, even though I think this is insanity to do this. He like locks in at the beginning of the game as if he has a chance to like win fucking LCK or something. Like you can tell from the way he plays, like he actually thinks if he tries, like, but if I'm even better, it's like, mate, you played the best players of all time. So I don't blame him at all for these losses, but fucking hell, that series was a nightmare for me. But then you come to this Hanwha Life one, and look, I'm sure plenty of people thought Hanwha Life was just going to 3-0 them or just clap them and there'd be no chance. This was like, not only was it not even competitive, it was the other way around. T1 genuinely did just destroy these fuckers.
I just want to touch on BDD because I feel like if a person says BDD is one of the greatest mid laners, is performing really insane, that's like the Inglourious Bastards 3 fingers test, you know. It's like, oh, then you know ball, you know, because if you tell me BDD is not good, you're not watching the games. Because it's like that split when they went 17-1. In my mind, that was like one of the few splits in recent times where somebody performed better than Chovy.
That's fair, yeah.
BDD, like in that meta where he was playing like the Twisted Fate, he was pulling out the Vegas, like he was so ahead of the curve in terms of what to play, and he was like shaping the meta around him. It was absolutely insane. And he has had so many series against T1 where he performs so much better than Faker. In that same split, those series that went to 5 games, BDD was outperforming Faker. He was like solo killing him with Tristana, left and right, even as close as last year when they played the qualifier to get into the World Championship. It's like that game 5 that they played, it was like BDD on Yone really slicing people up, but Beryl just said, I don't want to go to Worlds. And they lost the game from a 3k gold advantage. It's like BDD has so much history being the stronger mid laner losing against Faker, and in recent times it's I don't know, it's just it's like some god ordained punishment. It's
you know, when people who don't watch the games, by the way, shall I tell you a little secret from being a journalist and someone who's observed like human behavior for a long time?
Tell me the secret.
Here's the secret, Yamato. Have you ever noticed T1 and LCK fans to ever go, well, I don't want to give my opinion and be really obnoxious. What's your opinion? Why do you think? They never say that ever, Yamato. These are the people that just walk in a room after 2 years of watching and go, this player's the greatest, he's a choker, he sucks. So when they always say on Reddit, Yamato, but if Chovy's as good, no, sorry, not Chovy, if Rookie's as good as you say, why doesn't he qualify to Worlds? They're giving away that they don't watch the games, mate. What they're saying is, well, I actually don't even watch the games, but unless you can give me a good answer, I don't care that where he doesn't go, right? Here's where you're going to think, what's this got to do with this? No. Watch the career of BDD for the last 4 years. By the way, before that, I do think he was slightly overrated. I actually think in the days when he used to actually win championships for fun, I do think at the time, some of that was actually like he was, he had the showmaker problem where he was on the best team, but I don't think he was the best mid laner, if you know what I mean. The difference is, I think from like 2020, I think it's 2021 onwards. Yes, that's the right one. Because that was the Worlds where he was smurfing on GenG as well, if you remember. It was super sick against Cloud9, all right? From that one onwards, he's just been this super hard carry guy. But in Man Alive, one, he has bad luck with his teams, and then two, they so betray him. And all I'll say is this, is if you think, how could this rookie guy really be that good if he can never qualify? Go watch the career of BDD the last 3 years. What you will see is a player over and over again who, it doesn't matter how well they play, you just can't win the match. Like, if enough of your teammates shit the bed, or you just have bad teammates, which sometimes does happen, you just can't win. Like, I know we saw some like glopes from people like Doc Dam. He's never fucking going to be consistently beating Viper and fucking even Gumiushi. He's not going to be. That's just a ridiculous expectation. So, you know, I'm with you, mate. I actually do think it's one of those rare cases where, much like I did with Rookie, I do think I can look at these last few years and beyond the odd game, I actually don't think it's that player's fault. I think he did basically as much as I could expect. And as you say, especially those T1 series, if people go back to that 2023 where they kept losing all the 5 gamers, mate, he's like the only one that was actually not only playing well, I agree, he was outperforming Faker in some of those matches. It was other people that lost it. It was people like, funnily enough, they don't like to say that. It was people like Kane that had other performances. Yep. That definitely did happen. He was supposed to be the best too. By the way, my boy Aiming, he definitely shit the bed on some games. He's another player that's more of a regular season merchant. Doesn't make it as much. So no, I'm with you. I just wanted to do that because I thought we should just give BDD his shine. Like, sure, yeah. I also do think in history, it's too easy to look at the placings and think like, oh, wait, if he won championships years earlier, now he's third. How good could he be? It's like, actually, the joke is he's better than he was in the championship years. Yeah. And the game, by the way, if anything, is the hardest now. So mad respect to BDD. He's another player where I genuinely hope that either he just moves to a better org, or that next year's the year where, like they were supposed to going to do it this year if they could get Ruler or Pays or something. I just hope that next year's the year where KT, you know, like reinvests the money and gives him the players around himself. Because if you look at this squad right now, look, I guess based on this split, they could make it to Worlds, but they're not even a favourite to do that. Like, who knows? Maybe D plus bounces back. Who knows what happens with Nongshin? No one really knows even where that squad's at. So I just hope this guy, I just don't want this to be the end of his career. Like him dragging people close to the finish line and then not being able to get over, and then fans thinking he's some like irrelevant player. Because if you look at his trophy cabinet the last few years, it looks like he's irrelevant, but he isn't. This guy's really good. But it's the way I do think the last 3 or 4 years he's been better than Showmaker.
No,
I think that's even unfair. Am I even being unfair by that?
No way. Like, I think that makes, like, BDD has been just smurfing his face off. Like, the only thing I would add is that this is the type of player that I wish that he took maybe one of those contract offers to go over to the LPL.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think he would have been.
Imagine if he was in like anyone's legend or something, mate. He'd be stacking trophies. He would. Yeah,
he would just be tremendous, because it's like we sometimes, there's definitely, like, if there's one point that is painful, especially like we look at this split, it's like the mid laners that stand out, it's like, oh, what the hell is happening? Like it's all over the place. It's like now the top 3 is like Knight, Shanks and Rookie. That's like pretty obvious, but there's been times where all 3 of them didn't like perform super good. There was no like standout, while the competition in the LCK, it's like you're never gonna take a spot from either Chovy or, of course, Faker. So this is one of those players that I wish, like, if he built his career over the last 3-4 years in China, I think he would have been like, he would have been there at every international and performing.
They just have more teams. So, like, the difference is, like, okay, the joke is they wouldn't put him in anyone's legend now because they just won. But I'm talking about in past splits where, you know, you would take the name upgrade. But you even look at some of the teams that underperformed. JDG, yeah, Scout's awesome, but he could be in another team, by the way. TES, mate, I would take BDD over Cream today. Instant. That's like a fucking no backsies, no fucking, you can't go back on this deal, like handshake, that's done. Easy. And then you'd actually have a real championship squad built around yourself too. In fact, if anything, I do think that's his problem, mate. I think for whatever weird reason, he's just been too loyal to KT. He's just like it's almost, even though he's not, remember, it's not like he started his career here, but he almost treats it like he has to stay. Which in a way I respect, but I also hate because we are in the era where players have a lot of agency as to where they go in their careers. And in theory, you can only get trapped a couple of years if you're smart. So he might have made some bad decisions there. Right, let's talk about the T1 and Live series. Luckily, I'm pretty sure he is the one who gets paid. So luckily, I imagine he does have a good contract. So there is at least that. There is at least that. Right, if we talk about this T1 series, mate, do you need a minute?
Sorry. I want these keys. All right, sorry. T1 How Alive. Forgive me.
Well, they needed the keys to victory over T1 and did not, in fact, receive them, Yamato. So, no, here's the thing. This is probably the most unexpected result that was possible. If you told me either like Hanwha Life wins 3-0, plausible, or Hanwha Life wins 3-2, yeah, that could happen too. You know, like I could imagine people like Peanut getting nervous and then Faker having a clutch game here and there, blah, blah, blah. The idea T1 3-0s, that's like the least likely result of them all. Like, it's kind of nuts because as we're saying, if anything, Hanwha Life showed really good performance in the game against GenG. So what is the defining factor for this series for you? What's the main reason T1 was so far ahead?
I think in terms of, I gotta give props to the prep work. I think time and time again now, we see now every team that is winning BO5s in any region, it like the prep work is such a big deal because like the opening game, I feel like T1 diffused already a lot of the combos and all of the champions that How Life would love to play. It's like we look at the list of T1 in the opening drafts, like Gwen, Nico, Kalista, Wukong, Silas. Already a lot of the How Life classics, so to speak, are out of the picture. And How Life also in that game one, they had the Devi REJs. These are champions that I expect them to perform on. But you mentioned it in the initial series that How Life played. I do think that Peanut, like his to go for. It was horrible in this one. As the Vi angles that he was finding were absolutely atrocious. Like when an RE can't R twice and flash and reach your target, you are in a different continent. You have no visa. You have no business being there. It was very, very strange. And I think on T1 side, they showcased already in the series, I remember against GenG, the one that they lost, where they lost 2-0. That series was remarkably close, but T1 were like one team fight away from actually beating GenG in those matches. And I think the main thing that they
one of those matches had like a Chovy moment too, where he went just completely apeshit and just wrecked everyone. Like, yeah, no, T1 could have won that series for real. The regular season one you're talking about, yes.
And that was like, there was like some smite steals from Canyon, and there were team fights that they mis-executed, and T1 seemed so close at finding that form. Like I think most of the losses that T1 had was either Gumayushi like heavily underperforming, Thorin like losing matchups ungracefully. There was like the BFX series where like he played Gwen into Jace and just completely got murdered, and they lost series against Bro and BFX and teams that they shouldn't lose against at all. But in this series, like Thorin and Gumayushi were standout. They were fantastic. They managed to figure out the draft. They managed to figure out those fights in terms of which positions to turn on, and they actually gave us some feeling of like vintage T1. It's like team fighting is your thing. If you manage to get to the team fights, your players are gonna clutch it out, and we got to see the beauty in that. And I think that T1 have found ways to improve super much, and at the same time, I really like their prep work. Because I mentioned that game one draft, that game two draft, it's like How Alive. I don't really know where their mind is at if they are first picking Sion. You know, it's like they were so deep in the idea of removing tools from T1 that they lost sense of themselves. And I think that's a sign of a team that after that loss tried to change too much. It's a very, very common reaction where you lose or a patch hits and you remove yourself too far from what actually brought you there in the first place. And I do think that How Alive in this series, prep-wise, removed themselves far too far from their own strengths, because the opening match, MF, Jin, Viper, no agency, and then you're slamming Sion in that game. Sion's super strong. That's not what it's about, but you are inviting, of course, T1 into circumstances where they are very strong, especially out of the early game. And then T1 out of the early game were allowed to, of course, showcase their strengths. The craziest thing for me is after those first 2 games, I'm like, oh, game 3, I want to see Thorin and more carries. That Ambassador performance, the Gwen performance is marvelous. I want to see more of Thorin carries. Well, what did you think about TR's performance, Thorin? Tell me.
I mean, by the way, I would even say you can extend it into the KT series. He looked great on the fucking carries there too, mate. Like, it's funny because obviously I can, again, I know how these people talk, mate. If a T1 fan thinks someone is world class, oh, don't worry, they'll tell you every fucking sentence. So what all T1 fans did with Thorin this year is go like, let's just be nice to him as a person. It's not his fault that he's put in this situation. They just kind of related to him as a human and like, you know, we're being like treating him like a fucking mascot, basically. Whereas like I've always told people, look, if you want to talk about greatest top laners, Thorin isn't even in the conversation. But I tell you what, domestically in LCK playoffs, he does have a very good track record, and that's not just some fluke. Like, and funny enough, bizarrely, his best matchup in history is against fucking Zeus for some reason. No one knows why. It'll never really make sense because that really is some shit where it's like you're supposed to be a whatever player. He's supposed to be the generational top laner that like never should lose to you, but bizarrely you do beat him. Although here's the other thing. You would think if he was going to win, mate, he would win playing Sion, bullshit like that. And essentially he would just let other people carry him. Bro, he was a fucking man in this series. And I even thought in the KT series too, like this guy was just fucking smashing me. As you say, the Ambassador performance, like this was you'd think that was like an LPL carry top laner, mate. This guy's a stud. Yeah, very impressive stuff. And like, again, you can't take fucking Hanwha Life and act like they have any weakness at that position. That is the player, Zeus, that we all said in winter was the best player in the world. Not best top laner, best player in the world. And Thorin, for real, just went head to head with him and actually outperformed him. And by the way, by a decent margin too, he looked like a lot better. So I've got to say as well, it is funny because everyone lost hope because of the Thorin angle on T1. I certainly don't think T1's is good. I think that's obvious. But Thorin isn't fucking chopped liver, as they say. He has something to his game. Although this might be the best performance he's ever had. I don't know, but this is not so well he played. Because as I said, it wasn't even some weak side shit. This guy was actually just fucking. He wasn't on some tank or something like that. He was actually playing like real fucking League of Legends. And also, like you say, in doing so, draining the draft from the opponent. But you're taking away picks that maybe someone like Zeus will play, and you're winning on them. That's fucking baller.
Say as well, from the angle of T1, to have the balls to shape your game around Thorin, to make that decision with conviction in practice already. Yeah. It comes back to the conversation we had before, right? In terms of like at the beginning of the year, it's like, oh, in terms of how this roster is constructed, the whole Smash conversation, it stemmed from the fact that, who's going to pick up the slack? Because obviously, like, there's very specific roles that a player like Gumayushi is the best at. He's not the best at everything, but in a specific pocket, he is the best. And how do you find that pocket again? And that was like the vacuum that Zeus left. And for them to, at some point in practice, have that conviction. Because in the regular split, we were clowning on the Gwen picks. We were clowning on the Jace lock-ins. We were clowning on some of these picks where I was one of the people that also was begging for them to just restructure around the identity that makes sense around Thorin, for them to have that conviction and stick to it, and then to come out winning against Hanwha Life in this fashion, when obviously in practice they made this conviction is super, super baller. They went against the grain super hard, and I think through that, everyone else has found their identity again. I think on this team, especially in like current form, I do think like Faker is still like somewhat like underperforming. I think that like Annie Flash Angle was super cool under the turret, but I think everyone around him are just performing like absolute ballers. I think Keria in this series, some of the shit he did, like similar.
Worldly, wasn't he? Yeah, who's not?
Is like we talk about Chovy because of course mid lane is just so much harder, so much more difficult. But the parallel to the support role and doing shit that nobody else can do, it's like Keria is that guy. It's like the Poppy angles he found, the Rakan angles he found. I think the evolution of Keria, especially in this split, where Keria and Owner are playing more and more as a pair and are actually capable of playing together, they are really, really shoring up one of their biggest weaknesses of the past, which makes me super excited for MSI. Because I think that Keria and Owner as a duo finally are coming into a international where I actually judge them as a duo. I always looked at them as individuals because they were often playing as individuals, while a duo like Delight and Peanut are always on the same screen on the map in terms of how they take over stuff. But now I think just Honor and Kyria, their form is just splendid, and them at MSI is actually like low-key exciting. It's actually kind of hype.
Oh, by the way, that's also why I wish there was a real final. I could actually see T1 play GenG and see who wins. Because I actually think the missing part people have is, like every T1 story, people only look at Faker. If you actually go, it's almost always the splits where Keria is not just, is like the best support in the world. They're all the splits they win, basically. Like, that's when they're at their peak form. That's when they've won all the competitions. And then also, I tell you what I forgot to mention as well. Bro, if you want like an example of why this series of T1 Handball Life was ridiculous, it's that playing game 2 where they're in the bot lane, every player, and fucking Thorin is just 1v2ing Zika and Viper at the same time on Mbessa, and they can't do shit to him, and they're literally having to like run away. Like, the guy was actually smurfing, it was nuts. Like, you would think that was bin or something, mate. It was actually ridiculous. No, I'm with you. I actually think that's also the big glow. What people have missed in T1 is, even when you get past Faker, then the drama's just been about Gumayushi smash the whole time. But the actual joke of it all, if you ever want to watch the whole split, is Bro Kerry's had a very strong split in general. Like, I thought actually the whole time he was playing very, very well. He's another person where people ignored this. This is why them fucking up the Zayas signing's even more criminal, in my opinion. Because I actually think if they'd have kept Zayas, T1 would have been awesome in fucking Fearless Draft. Sure, they would still have had issues around mid lane because they used to use that as the band-aid. But people like Kerry, bro, this guy's been born to play all the pocket picks and like he plays fucking Elise, and then of course he does. He already did all that shit anyway. Like, this guy was going to do that. If anything, it'd probably be easier because now he just have to convince his coach. Now he just could play it anyway because you have to pick another champion. Like, no, I'm with you. I still a contender for best support in the world. Might even be the best support in the world, mate. Just an unbelievable player, isn't he?
I want to also like highlight one of the signings that they made in off season, and I just have to imagine that it made a massive impact, and that is Mata. Like, Mata moving from GenG to this team, and like Mata basically had a hand in all of the jungle support duos that are dominating, and T1 their gameplay around support and jungle has been really reshaped. It's like, I am no longer worried when Keria is playing melee champs. Like, that was always like the main weakness when he played against On or Delay or like Lehens. They were just better at the melee supports because they connected with jungle a lot better, because Owner is a player that just wants to farm a lot and get a lot of strength himself, and T1 always band-aided that by playing Pyke, Rakan, Bard, all of these mobile champions. But now he is allowed to play that whole range and mechanically just performs out of this world. So for me, it's like, even though Keria has found really, really insane high peaks in his niche, so to speak, where he shaped the whole support role, whether it was 2023 or 2024, now I feel like Keria is reaching the point where I cannot really point to a weakness. It's like, you've had certain supports, like Ming is like the opposite of him, the guy who could only play melee supports, or On after the Warmock's armor nerfs coming into the World Championship, same as Lehens, which is really underperforming, and Keria always in the range supports was always dominating. Now, any meta that is coming through in MSI, I know Keria is going to perform. For me, above and beyond, like the best support in the world and the best support coming into this tournament. It just does shit that is frankly just unbelievable. And we know there was that, you know, remember like 6 episodes ago, 7 episodes ago, I was always making this joke about how Spirit Blossom is going to is going to change the whole game. Bilibili, G2, and T1 were my 3 Spirit Blossom teams that were going to get better. And they were at the point in time where they were like, you know, in the bottom 5 of the standings. They were not doing well at all. And I think all of these 3 teams are doing a lot better due to the fact that laning is a bigger central point. So laning on bot lane actually matters. You don't break your way through it, and teams have landed in a point where contesting the first Drake is a crucial part. So having that bot prio, being strong in the bot lane, is something so crucial. And Gumayushi Keria as laners are super good, and they're leveraging that as a super like big strength. And on top of that, I do think that Gumayushi, in terms of his champion pool, we have basically phased out Ezreal Kaiser is something that is paired together with Nico, but still somewhat rare in comparison to some of the other champions. Senna, Lucian, being back in the meta is super good for Gumayusi, and he's playing in the pocket where he's one of the best ADs in the world again. Like in that specific niche, Gumayusi is so insane, and they have found a way through patches and also their own team to actually make that happen again. And it comes over the back of Thorin playing carries, which is crazy.
And also, I'll throw it on the carry thing. Like I said, he also did it with 2 different ADCs also. He looked great with Smash also, I thought. That's why you could have kept that pairing. So it's quite interesting. Also, I will point out as well, in the end, it did work out. Look, we never had a final, so we'll never know how they'll do against GenG. But actually, as the split ended, Gumayusi did look pretty good. He had his ups and downs throughout the split. Like, there was times where it looked really good when he came back in. Then there was a couple of series that was bad. I know everyone's going to delete now, like the Bro series, etc. Like, these things happen. Some of these series did happen. Like, both him and Smash both had times they looked bad. Both had times they looked very good. But at the end, it has worked out so far. And I'm with you. If you look at the current patch, it's fine to use him. There's no issue right now with what he's playing. In fact, you go to MSI, that's it. By the way, there's even an interesting angle. If anything, now they have the option to sub at MSI, right? They can just bring that 6th player in if they feel like the meta's going against them or scrims are going against them or something. Interesting ace to have in your back pocket. Also, a lot of us did talk, unsurprisingly, because the top 2 teams the whole time were Hanwha and GenG. In fact, the only question at the time was which is number 1 and number 2. No one actually thought T1 would beat an international until Worlds, but they're at MSI now. So I do think you have to factor in these players have had an unbelievable run internationally. Certainly the Thorin factor for me. Listen, without Ziz, I don't think they're going to win MSI. I think that's a bit silly to imagine that. But I do see a world where they could also like level up and be really awesome there. And if you think about, mate, once you get past the champions of the regions, there's a lot of kind of sloppy teams out there. Like we're going to talk about them in a minute. The BLG arsehole lose, the fucking G2. These are teams T1 can get. I'm telling you, like, there's a real world where like T1 could be in the final or 3rd or something at this MSI. So I think that's very plausible, mate. I wouldn't count them out in this one whatsoever.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's like there is like the Chinese teams. We are hyped about them, but anyone else coming in with very little experience. Beating T1 in a best of 5 at an international requires a very specific state of mind, and like Billy are the guys that managed to do so. But that was a Billy that was
yes,
very very and underappreciated, I would say.
No, for sure.
I think
Yamato, if we have to judge them, we're obviously going to say Shanks is better than Faker. But it's that whole cream thing again. It's like, yeah, but I haven't seen him at a national match, mate. The problem with that one is I know how Faker's going to have a chance to play. I have no idea how Shanks will play. Might be awesome, might be shit. Who knows? Who the fuck knows right now?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like the only thing I would add is like the news cycle nowadays goes so fast that people probably don't care. But in terms of how everything went down with the whole Smash Gumayusi topic, it's like even now, in terms of how it lays in the air, in terms of Joe Marsh stepping in, putting in Gumayusi, it's like people are just now in the aftermath in terms of how everything played out. There's people that look bad now for no reason because the public statements were just mismanaged. It's like, do the coaches look stupid now because they wanted to play Smash? Gumayusi played well. It's like I just wanted to highlight, it's like regardless of what the outcome was, the PR statements that were going down in that period during the drama period were just setting up these players and the team and the coaches for a PR failure.
I'll tell you, here's what it sucks as well, Yamato, because we can never know what their plan was. Like, maybe their plan was, Gumayushi's playing so badly, the only way we can motivate him is you're not in the team until, like, shit gets better. So, or you have to wait for your chance and then be ready for your chance, and that's what we want for you. And then instead, maybe putting Gumayusi in early again made him have all those underperformances. Like, you can't possibly know. That's the reason why I hate it, Yamato. I always say this. In my opinion, when you hire a coach, you hired him to do his job. Let him do his job. The second you stop letting him do his job, I don't blame him anymore for the results of the split. You stepped in and you handcuffed him. You didn't allow him to pick the player he wanted, to put the player in, to practice the week with. You did all that. It's like the story I always tell people. I will never fail to mention this. Anytime I ever mention that Team Liquid Super Team, when you went back to 2022, the Bjergsen, Hans Sama, because you remember, that's the one that my boy Giotto got given. It was the first true like super team he'd ever been given. And in the first split, they took the draft away from him, but didn't tell the public. Well, I'm sorry, those results don't count the same way against him then. If you're going to tell me he failed, how did he? He couldn't even pick the fucking champions. Like, what what else does he do as a coach? You know what I mean? Like, so I do think things like that matter. I'm with you. Like that's the reason it was so stupid, the PR nightmare, because the only possible outcomes was either they lose badly and then Joe Marsh looks like a complete idiot, or they win like this and actually looks good, and now you make your own coaching staff look fucking stupid, or like they don't know what they're doing. Like, that's why it was so misplayed. If there's one rule I would have, especially by the way in Korean orgs, where it's really important to have like respect and be honourable, etc., is be on the same page before you get in front of a microphone. I always think this were players too, mate. It's one thing, in my opinion, if after you leave a team, you come out and go, hey, I didn't like the way this was done, or this guy was a dickhead, or that's fine. But I think it's insane when people are still in a team and they like let the locker room talk leak, basically, of like who doesn't like who's going to. I think that's fucking insanity. Again, even if you don't like each other, you get together before you go out the locker room and go, look, boys, this stays in here though, doesn't it? We are a team. And at the end of the day, while you're my teammate, you're my teammate. So I'm with you. I still think like not like this result doesn't justify all that drama, all that stupid shit. Even if they were going to do the same thing, Yamato, just don't say it publicly. That's where Joe Marsh fucked up. You could even do the same thing privately. Like here's the thing, maybe privately, Yamato, he comes in and says to the coaching staff, look, I need you to play Gumayushi. Like I'll even give you a reason why. Like someone like Joe Marsh might say that. I've got all marketing reasons. Look, I didn't get Zay, so I've still got OFGK. I've built the whole thing around that. At the moment, we're losing anyway, so why not keep the carry of Gumayushi? Even if he said all that, the difference is if he at least let the coaching staff seem like they're behind it too, that's different. I'm with you. Yeah. The real problem with that thing is it's a lose-lose when either the CEO or the coach has to be the idiot. You know what I mean? When someone has to look stupid, what are we doing? What was the point?
Agreed. It's like we had that conversation, right? And it would have been so simple. It's like Gumayushi fought hard to get back into the team, and now everyone supports him. Yeah. Whoa, Gumayushi is a hero. He took it like a champ. God bless, you know.
You could even argue then you've built up Smash's quality. Maybe you can sell him now. Like it could have been so many positives could have come out of this, mate.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm with you on the MSI take too. I think there's a world where T1 make top 2. I think they can challenge for sure. There's a lot of question marks about the 2 LPL teams. They have very, very high peaks. I think they can, you know, if things land right, things can look super, super good. And there seems to always be something magical about MSI, specifically for the LPL teams, where things make sense. Often, historically, what we've seen is that the MSI patch usually doesn't change too much from spring. I feel like that's always the biggest distinction between Worlds and, of course, the playoffs leading up to Worlds. Like last year, we had full AD carry meta controlling every region, and then coming into Worlds, it just wasn't a thing anymore because they nerfed it completely to the ground. MSI usually doesn't come with those shifts, and usually LPL is so widespread in terms of talent that usually the team that wins are specialists at a specific way of playing, or they're just super, super dominant, like a JDG or a Billy. And now we're in a world where LPL, of course, is very spread in terms of talent and also in skill, that now moving into MSI, if things don't change too much, I do think that LPL, of course, can challenge. Well,
here's the thing, Yamato. Obviously, before we get to that, we actually have something we want to talk about, right? What is it?
Yeah. Yo, I finally got mine. My Ridge wallet is here, baby. You know, I'm super, super happy because I had those bulky wallets, you know, for the longest time. And I noticed, like, I went to a chiropractor. I had issues with my spine. And apparently, like, sitting on a wallet, because it kind of rearranges you.
Right.
It rearranges you. And you kind of don't notice because it's something that you get used to and it's something that you just do. And it just kind of messes you up because you sit unevenly. And usually any terms of damage that happens to you, of course, comes from, you know, just overuse. And I'm a person that sits a lot. So me sitting on that wallet really, really put me in balance. And what I did, because my doctor just told me, you need to shift this, I just kept all my stuff in a pile. And I just kept it in a little pile and I put it in my front pocket. So the Ridge wallet, the fact that it's so damn compact has really, really saved me a lot of pain, you know? And that really, really just helped me out. I keep it in my front pocket. I think that's a blessing. No longer I have back pain, which is a big plus. The fact that I can add any adjustment to it is super, super cool too. I'm kind of waiting. They didn't send me the tag that you can put on it that I can keep track of it whenever I lose things, because something that happened to me while I was in Denmark, I always lose my stuff. I was in Denmark with Ruddy Sack and I lost my wallet. I was so sure that I put it in my backpack and I got so scared. You do this thing where you like retrace your steps and I'm like looking at the ground of the streets of Copenhagen, hoping that I find my wallet. In the end, it was in my backpack indeed. The fourth time I checked, it was in there. But those type of scares, I'm looking forward to getting my my tag to make sure that I can always keep track of it, because that's how I keep track of my phone. So why not my wallet too? This is just as important. The nightmare of losing your bank cards and your ID cards is not something that I ever want to live through again. So the Ridge AirTag attachment, I am super, super hyped for it. I like the fact that this wallet, it comes in many, many different styles. You can customize however you want. I have the carbon fiber, which is super cool. It has like this matte feeling to it, which I really, really like. You can customize it with multiple colors. You can do whatever you want with it. I also have the keychain, which is super cool because I don't like the fact that in my pocket, it sounds like everyone hears me coming when the keys are like flopping around. Yeah. And the key, the Ridge key holder just kind of keeps them compact, neat and compact, and they don't make a sound. I like that a lot. It's very subtle. It's very cool. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I don't have it right now because my fiance didn't find the keys. That's when she interrupted me earlier. She took my keys, so I don't have it in my hands right now, but I'm really, really happy with that one too. Usually with sponsors, it's like you don't know what you're getting. I got the box in, and the presentation of it all was super, super sleek and super nice. I think it's insane that 12 cards fit in these ones. I like the fact that the warranty is just a lifetime warranty. I think if a company tells you have lifetime warranty, I think it's just plain and simple. They're telling you they're believing in the product. They're believing in the product. Lifetime warranty and a 99-day risk-free trial. I think that says it all. There's 100,000 5-star reviews, 101,000 because 100,001. I'm gonna add the 5-star review because I'm super, super happy after having it now for 2 weeks. All the materials are super, super premium. It feels very, very sleek and rigid. I like that a lot, and is very, very nice and clean to use. Another thing that scares the shit out of me is I've seen like these TikToks and these videos of people getting robbed while they're on the phone on like a train station, and people run by and just take money from you because they just take your card and like snag your card, because obviously it's like paying with your phone. It's very, very convenient, but that convenience comes, of course, at a great risk. It's almost like keeping your door open. Yeah, it's very, very convenient because you can just exit, don't need to fumble with your keys, but it comes with the great risk. But this removes all of that risk. Nobody can scan you. I believe it's called RFID blocking technology, which is there. It's kind of like a VPN for your wallet, which is, nowadays you gotta have that. So for all listeners out there, for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using code. I need to just tab in and see the code. The code is SI. It's very simple. Code SI. Ridge.com/SI, promo code SI. Very, very easy. 10% at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use code SI and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support us by letting them know that, me and Thorin sent you. Summoning Insights sent you. Last Free Nation. Of course, that helps us a great deal. In the end, we just want you guys to have cool stuff. We're getting cool stuff. Ridge Wallet is where it's at. I'm super, super happy with mine. Go get your 10% off.
Even the code's compact, SI. Not something
yes, sir.
Just SI. Easy to remember. No, right. Okay, let's talk about the LPL then, Yamato. Because I have to say, this LPL run was way more exciting than I expected. Like, the problem with the LPL was, since JDG and TES lost so early and in fucking pathetic opponents in the lower bracket, like, it did actually look like, put it this way, the reason, even though I said last time I didn't think it would happen, it didn't. I was so scared that WE beats IG, because then it's just a boring playoff run. At that point in time, it will be WE third, BLG second, and then anyone's engine first. That's what it looks like. Like, IG winning, right, didn't really change it, but I'll tell you what, at least the games were interesting. Like, I've got to say, let's talk about the BLG IG series first, mate, because the problem is, I will say, if you're a rookie hater, well, you were eating good. Because aside from game one, this was a series where generally I don't think he played at the level like you would want if you wanted the chance to win, especially because one of the few things about BLG that's never fallen away, in my opinion, is Knight. Look, Bin's had his ups and downs, and obviously if we talk about the final, we're certainly going to talk about some of his issues. But Knight, what people don't seem to get about Knight is, I think he's very underrated in the sense that, like, he's someone where he can actually play mega mechanically, but he can still lose the game. He's not the guy that just always wins when he's on his peak form. I think this guy almost never has actually bad splits individually. Like mechanically, he's always there. Champion pool's always there. Like the problem is, I think that is the most unbeatable player in the fucking LPL, mate. I think that guy is just too cracked. So I don't blame Rookie for losing that sense, but I also don't think he had the performances you'd want, especially not with some of these drafts. So what did you think of this IG BLG series?
I thought the opening was very strong for IG with the whole Zed Annie. I was like, damn, is IG?
Fire, wasn't it?
Do they have the capacity to win? Because like IG and Bilibili, they have a lot of similarities in terms of how they approach the game and how they play. I think they just kind of, if there's any if there's an LPL meme about how like teams approach things, it's like, be as strong as possible and then just be there out objectives and show up and fight and pick drafts and draft around that idea. I think that's like the LPL thing that, of course, anyone's legend is the outlier in, but more on that a little bit later. I think that the opening game was super good. I think JJ and Rookie with the Annie Zed, they looked super clean. I think the rest of the series, I agree. Like Rookie's performance wasn't the greatest. I think that in the end, Bilibili landed in drafts that made more sense, in my opinion, in regards to that identity of both teams, where they found themselves in situations to fight. I also think this was one of the better Beishwan series, because I do think that Beishwan was just kind of like a plug-and-play player, and I didn't think that he was necessarily good. I thought this was one of those series where I was like, oh, okay, Beishwan, you're pretty solid, maybe you aren't just like a background character to this team, and your impact is actually felt, because I think the biggest change between Beishwan and Wei was that Beishwan just didn't run it down. Like, he didn't lose your games flat out, and I think this was a big step up from him. But in the end, I think it was very evident that these teams are too similar, and Bilibili are just better at the same game. In the end, for me, the biggest gap was just in the support position, because I feel like this was vintage On. There were moments in time where I thought On was like the best support in the world, especially like last year during summer, post MSI, where he was just performing over and over again. And the Warmox meta was just perfect for him in terms of how much space he creates. And he just had a very, very good run, especially both MSIs that he played. There was like that famous one in 2023 where they were just diving Gumayushi and Keria 2v2 and just destroying them completely. And they were just farming 2v2 kills back and forth, Elk and On. And I feel like this series was kind of a return to that. So ever since On was very, very bad at the World Championship, it was good to see like On perform again. But I think the truth of where Mako is at is, he wasn't super bad, but he wasn't good enough in terms of who he needs to be in order for IG to beat a Bilibili. I think pound for pound, Bilibili is just a better team.
No, the biggest problem, I mean, as you say, like JJ had his criticisms this split, but I feel like as the second half of the split went on, he got better. Now at least that Zed game was very legit. It was a fucking awesome game. The problem is the one player who never at any point in time ever actually was online for me has been Mako the whole year, quite frankly. Like the difference is, it's like you say, at best he just played all right. He just played all right. He's never looked like A, himself, or B, like a great support player. I actually do think, for real, this would be the player I would genuinely consider swapping for Summer, mate. Like, I'm already sort of done, unless he can totally turn it around. Because when a player's as great as he was for as long as he was and doesn't have these issues, that almost suggests to me like you're in the wrong team. And if you're in the wrong team, mate, we're not changing other people for you. It has to be you. We have to change you, I'm afraid. Because, like, I mean, we're in a world where fucking Kale is like a contender for best support player in the world, mate. Like, you're irrelevant. This is fucking sad. Like, at the moment, it's bad for both parties. You genuinely should probably just be on a different team. It hasn't worked out. And it's not, remember, in the LPL, you have a lot of fucking matches, mate. You've had loads of time to turn it around. Something's just not working. And if the idea also was that in his past teams, he really was the shot caller and the captain, then that isn't working either. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. And I know what you mean. The reason why I never really thought IG could beat BLG is because IG also tries to play off their hands sometimes. By the way, look, fair play. Like Rookie had like some solo kills. He had like a solo kill on fucking Knight when he was Oriana earlier. He had the odd play that was good. But like I say, one, you're not going to beat Knight in Midland. No one can right now, in my opinion. And then two, I'll tell you the player, and we can transition this to the final if you want. The most underwhelming player for the whole split, in my opinion, in the LPL is Bin. Because the problem is he still carries that crazy rep of last year, because I do think that the whole last year he was mega, but especially that Worlds run was fucking unbelievable. It was gorted. I don't care that he lost. That was better than most of the people who've won Worlds, in my opinion, have played. Then even in winter, you looked, he was still pretty good. You were just sort of like, that's more like the jungle issue there, like you say, the way angle. The joke of Beishwan's career, by the way, is I agree with you. It's not even like he has to be a top player. His job was just don't be weird. That was it. And he successfully did that. And I even do think, by the way, he proves that they shouldn't have kicked Jun, because I think he's just a worse version of Jun. But he's just doing some of the similar things. And as we've seen, that style works. When you have super power laners like them, that's the style you want. That's the type of jungler you do want, the activity jungler. So the problem is, I do think Bin, mate, something's happened to this guy. Like, look, he's going to MSI, but I'm not feeling it right now, mate. This is the worst time I think ever he could maybe go to an international. What happened to this guy?
What's been so strange to me with Bidi is their obsession with playing the new meta. Like that to me is so confusing. It's like it's Gwen, like even that IG series, it's like Gwen should be permaban against Bin. When he slammed Gwen first pick, I knew like no matter how this game is gonna go, because IG like were ahead at some point in time, like Gwen's gonna carry this game. Like Bin is gonna win that game for you. I think his Yorick has also been like super good, if anything, out of the new. But whenever he plays Rumble, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all when he plays Rumble. I don't buy it at all when he plays Ambessa either. There's so many top laners that are better at Rumble, so many top laners that are better at Ambessa too. And this, of course, is like the new generation of meta. And the criticism towards Ben in the past was that, he just doesn't play Rumble, and now it feels so forced almost. Obviously, in a world where you have Fearless, there's a lot of thought in terms of how a game and how draft impacts a later portion of a series, which is very like natural and normal. When you pick Rumble and you're kind of removing it from the pool, that could be just an investment for later, so you don't need to keep carrying over a ban over and over again. This is something that we've seen many times. It's like something as recent as yesterday was as like many teams permaban Gragas against Baus, but in the end it's like there's a team that prepared against Gragas specifically because they know it's coming. They open up Gragas and then they had the Yorick prepared and then it just annihilated it. And some teams are going to lose against that Gragas one time, and at least in that point in time you're not carrying over a ban in every damn game, because in the end, how much info you have and how strong you are in that game 5, it really depends on what drafts were played beforehand. So that type of planning matters. But I don't see that in the Rumble lock-in. I really don't see that at all, because it was the same in the best of threes. I don't see. I think the main thing that also stands out is like his Jace is all right, but there is no champions that he's currently playing outside of that Gwen that makes me think, this has been, he slammed this champion, he's going to carry the game. He is so far removed from locking in Jax. It's not the greatest champion in the current meta, but still, when you are in a game 4 and you're blind picking and you can choose, I would want to see Bin slam a Jax in that game 4 on 4 pick, instead of letting, of course, the enemy play the Jax into your own Gnar. Sure, Gnar also is a Bin classic, but I think the main issue for me with Bin is just he's so far removed from the champions that we know he's going to be performing on. While Knight still, he opens up a series, wants to play Ahri. He's sticking to what he knows is going to succeed. And I think the main thing for me when it comes to Bin is just he needs to find himself again. Because I do agree, it's like looking at his career, a lot of people that are just watching Worlds and MSI are very impressed with Bin. But in terms of what he's done in regular splits, like before Billy came online, what he did on that team was crazy. It was basically the Bin show. It's like Bin would carry games. He would like beat top esports, whatever, with players that people didn't think much about. Like El Canon weren't a thing. They weren't considered good. They just simply weren't considered good before like the Tabe surge and that playoff run in spring that made them go all the way to MSI. They weren't considered good at all. That was the Bin show. Like Bin has had crazy good regular splits, and his career is just insanity. He's just like the guy. He's won MSI. He's been there at every international. He's been so close to winning world championships. He's been in 2 finals, and he's just performed for such a long time. That's why, looking at this, I'm with you 100% that the biggest thing that is a standout is Bin's continuation of the discussion. Is Bin in the competition of being a GOAT top laner? This is like a very, very poor form if we are putting the spotlight on a player like that. Sure, Billy have other issues, but we're talking about Bin. So we are highlighting Bin and his issues because we expect so much more.
And in the final, bro, at his position, he's playing fucking Flandre. Like, well, that should be a player that at this point in time he isn't, but that player should be washed. That is a name that quite, if people don't know, Flandre was the bit of the LPL 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Are you fucking kidding me? The joke is like Faker fans were just born then, just modern ones. No, it's ridiculous. Like I agree with you. The idea that you're just going to let in the final, you're never going to get to play Jax. You're just going to let the opponent like style on you and lock it in last game. Like that's the ultimate iniquity if you're a Bin fan. Like what a fucking series to forget. Meanwhile, if we go the other side, mate, there's a reason why I told people, unlike in Winter Split, when I did think that it would be whoever the best team out the lower bracket would beat anyone's legend. This was the time anyone's legend was ready, mate. I mean, first of all, this is why I don't get too overhyped from the Beishwan BLG performance, because Beishwan got his arsehole fucking gaped like a goatsy, motherfucker. This was insane, mate. Except in this analogy, instead of it being his own hands, one was Tarzan, one was Kale, and they were spreading that motherfucker. He was spread very thin, mate, because holy shit did they do a number on him. Like, mate, here's one thing people don't appreciate about Tarzan. When Tarzan came along, funny enough, at the same time Chovy did in Griffin, people forget, right? It was actually out of the two of them, Tarzan that was the more hyped. At the time, he was like the best jungler in the world. And one of the things people will underrate now, because they see him as like the peanut brain jungler, is this guy's mechanics were extremely legit. If you went back and watched him play like an Elise, it was... Just watch the Z game in this finals, boys. Holy fuck. That might... Listen, I thought Canyon was pretty good on... This is one of the best Z jungles I've ever seen, mate. This is fucking... Like every fight, he was just smurfing on these motherfuckers. And even though Beishwan is a totally serviceable player, he looked like he didn't exist in this fucking series, mate. It's why it's so satisfying if you're someone who's watched this guy, because obviously his problem is the opposite to Bin. You have to watch him domestically to know how good he is. This is why we've raved about this guy for years and years and years. He really was like the best player not to have won a fucking major region. He is so... his game, when he doesn't feel the pressure, he is so fucking good, mate. Like, you can see now, there's a different world, an alternate time. Like, you know, you go back and do the butterfly effect, you move a chair. And, like, the joke is, if he had more... If he could have kept his nerves together, Tarzan would be now competing with Canyon for, like, greatest jungler of all time. He just doesn't have the trophy cabinet, and he has underperformed in the big international matches. This sort of a match, mate, it's so satisfying to not see this guy just win. Because this is like, you know, when Flandre won Worlds. It's like, yeah, but he won Worlds. It's like they just play Graves top laner while other people there. This guy, Tarzan, just won, and I think looked fucking unbelievable. Like the joke is, the person he competed with for the MVP of this final for me was his support. It wasn't any of the laners. It wasn't the ADC, which the LPL's always about. It wasn't even the fucking solos. It was just the fucking jungle was a god in this series, mate. What do you think?
Tarzan has just been in the series was just unbelievable. Like the range of play, he's just willing to play anything and does it at a level that is insane. Just casually, like one of the greatest Vi's, casually one of the best Sejuanis, casually just one of the best Zeds I've seen in a competitive game. Slam it like that is just extremely impressive. It's like always. When it comes to AL as a whole, I think in this current context, in terms of Flandre as a player, it's like Flandre right now is the best performing top player in the league, but it is in a very specific niche as a player. It's like he's very good playing in isolation. If he is in, for example, carry versus carry matchups like that game we saw where Camille was slammed from Billy in the first series that they played, where Bin is locking Camille into his Ambessa, like he completely like dragged him all over the floor and just annihilated him because that's not his skill set. But Tarzan's skill set is just perfect. Like it's very, very hard to find flaws in terms of how he played. I think like in winter playoffs, there were definitely like underperformances that I think that you can, you know, attribute to maybe other things going on in the team, and he didn't really step up to the plate there. But obviously now in the modern game, like saying that you're going to carry your team is insanely hard, and I think that's why we revere Canyon as a player, because some of the shit he's done at some of these world championships is literally like, okay guys, my teammates are shit. I'm going to carry. Showmake, you with me? Yes, you with me? All right. I'm going to do crazy shit on Kane because he's pulling off shit nobody could do or would believe that is even possible. And now Tarzan, just such a complete player. I think his career is extremely underrated because he has been playing with players that nobody like remembers nowadays. It's like that LNG run that they did, sure, was cool with Hang and Gala and Zika, but beyond that, he didn't really have teammates. And even in that era, LNG actually was competitive with, of course, some of the greatest teams to have ever been put together. So Tarzan, super happy to see him win the trophy. I hope that he has a fantastic MSI. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the West. And something that we talked about on some of the earlier episodes is like, what would happen in a world where, all the Korean players that are performing in LPL would be recalled to the LCK? Tarzan is like one of the few players that would be like an upgrade for some of these teams. Because the conversation was like, How Alive is always after series. Like, How Alive should remove Peanut. It's like, who should they replace him with? Well, we live in an era where there's actually potential replacements for a player like Peanut when he underperforms in a split finals. Like, if Tarzan was on that team, that would be like just simply unbelievable. And looking at this MSI, the number one seed jungler that each region is sending, the major regions, it's just, the list is insane. You have Junjia out of CFO, which is fucking cool, is super cool. But then we have Elioya, Tarzan, Canyon, and Inspired. Now that is like this is one of the greatest jungle lists at a tournament ever, if not forever, like considering how many teams are here. So super exciting from the jungle position, and like making a tier list out of those junglers is going to be super fun, because these guys are all fantastic. But Tarzan finally winning a split, he deserves it. He's been so damn close, and he's been playing like a winner for so many years.
And I even said, even though it turned out, when I looked at all the all-pros and all that, no one else agrees with me, apparently, I would have even had him as just my MVP of the split, mate. I actually thought, if you look, his team was on top, partly because he was the fucking stud. I thought he was playing great. Like, for me, Kanavi was contesting him only in the regular split. The playoffs, it just fell apart completely. So, no, I think it's mega. And I'll also throw it out there. We've talked about this on past episodes, but it's true. Bro, the real visionary... But here's the problem with being a visionary, Yamato, is sometimes you do see the future, but it's further away than you knew. You saw what was going to happen, but when does it happen? CV Max was the real visionary, because think of this team. Thorin, Tarzan, Chovy, Viper, that would be sick today. This motherfucker had that in like 2020, 2020, like whatever, or 2019, sorry, whatever, like... Sure, he did mainly play sword. I will always point that out. Doran was on the up and up. He wasn't actually and in fact, actually back then he didn't play the tanks. He was the guy who played the carries and was kind of a bit. But you look at that roster. But the joke is, if you made that roster today, you might have that be an elite roster in the world and could like win everything in theory. Like, it is crazy that's why that talent bunch was cursed. Like all those times they fucking were in finals and lost. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, it clearly was just an incredible set of players.
Oh, I'm trying to remember, which maybe someone in the YouTube comments can correct, or maybe you remember too, because I thought like one of the big issues was, of course, the conflict. Like coming into that World Championship with Griffin, it's like they took that game, went to 5 games with IG in a very close series. Like one really big point of contention, I think, was that CV Max wanted to play Doran, and this created like a massive conflict. And then in the end, like CV Max was ousted, and he of course was accused of abuse within the team. And I don't remember how like everything was settled, because it was gone through some kind of a legal system back then. But I remember that was like a big part of the conversation, that he did want to play Doran, and Sword being unhappy with this. And in the end, as this team went through that World Championship, Doran was just benched the entire time. And that series they lost against, of course, IG was against a Deshai that was still playing super good. He just completely farmed Sword, and of course Chovy was playing tanks. But in a world where maybe Doran was playing that series, I can see a world where IG, like Griffin, wins that World Championship, because they were really good. Yeah. They were really good.
Yeah.
And them against FPX would have been like a very fucking like that matchup would be so much better for Griffin than what it was for, of course, IG, in my opinion. And yes. It's crazy how, as you mentioned, like butterfly effect, there's like some little things that could just gone different, and then all of a sudden history of esports changes, and Chovy could have sat here with the world's trophy, and we wouldn't have gotten like headaches from like talking about how good Chovy's been over the last years with fans that say, oh, he didn't win worlds.
I also just think that whole season 9's a bomber because all anyone remembers is FPX easily 3-0ing G2. So in their brain, they put like FPX as like one of the greatest winners of all time. It's like nobody even had them winning worlds until after the final. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, the joke is if you went to the playoffs, there was loads of teams ahead of them, including G2, like all the Koreans too. Like, give me a fucking break.
SKT would have murked them, I think.
I think
SKT would have murked them.
Yes,
they were
they would.
praying. They were surprised. Oh, thank you, G2. We don't need to play SKT. I remember there was like a statistic that came out. They were like 1-23 in scrims or something against SKT. They were like hoping. And then coming into their finals, it's like G2 was the favorite. G2 was the favorite against FPX.
Yes.
Like FPX dropped games against Fnatic.
People don't remember, literally all those series were close. Like Griffin could have beaten IG. IG could have beaten FPX. That was even a match everyone forgets about now. IG could have gone to back-to-back finals for real. And then obviously, in the end, FPX did win and beat G2. I always tell people as well, people forget, that was the same year we're in the group stage. Fucking Vizicachi shit on FPX. That's real. You can look that up. That's a real game that happened. That's real. That happened. So putting that out there. Anyway, rewinding it back, let's talk about the finals. The other thing as well, I hinted at it before. I'll tell you one of the weirdest, like, fucking career paths ever. It has to be the support Kale, mate. Because I remember this guy as the guy sat next to Prince when Prince was just smurfing on, like, Live Sandbox or whatever. And everyone was like, holy shit, this Prince guy's so good. Like, if you remember, that was the year where they got denied by DRX to go to Worlds. It's like, oh, fuck. And then he came to FlyQuest. It's going to be so sick. By the way, he was pretty good the first split or so. The Kale guy was like, he wasn't bad. He was a good player. He was all right, but he wasn't like a delight, a carrier. He wasn't some like transformative superstar player. Mate, this guy has had such a crazy glow up because if you go back, look, I do think actually it's quite cool because if you remember, he's been in Anyone's Legend for a while now, and the Anyone's Legend did go from being an also ran sort of irrelevant team to gradually getting better and better and better. And now, I actually think after this, if you told me he is the best support in the LPL, it's justified, mate. I mean, you watch this final. It's unbelievable what he's doing.
Okay, I just, in my mind, I'm like connecting the dots. And the Tabe magic is just living through the supports.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it?
Because the Tabe magic, Billy on, became a completely different player.
True.
And now through Kale as well, it's like, sure, he was good mechanically, but he wasn't playing support at like it's very clear when the best supports are playing the game and the supports under them, because the amount of impact is like we've gotten to the point where support is not like a throwaway role. Like if I'm making a top 25 coming into the World Championship, usually like supports would be undervalued there because of the nature of their role. But I feel like that has shifted massively now due to some players just really finding an insane amount of impact through the role. Keria is of course a standout, but there's like Delight, On, Lehens in some cases, of course. The supports that just play the game at a different level in terms of the impact they have on the map and how they leverage their agency. And most supports just don't keep up. And there's a clear gap in that world. And Kael is a part of that elite, like plain and simple. It's like Anyone's Legend, like the main thing that they have over everybody else in the LPL, because there are teams that have like insane mechanical players, like of course Billy. It is how they play the map, how they set up, how pristine they are in terms of knowing how to progress the game, because Kael and Tarzan are just playing together and they are moving so quickly in terms of keeping the tempo of the game. Like this is a team in the LPL in a world where everyone tries to beat the shit out of you. They are capable of setting the pacing of the game. It's like, oh, we win at 2 items. We need to play a defensive game until this point, and then we need to hit hard at this moment in time. They are capable of actually, creating a bigger vision of the game. And that only works if you have a support and a jungler that is in tune with everything that the enemy wants to do and everything that you need to do. And Kael, I think, plain and simple, fantastic. It's just the fact that Tabe in this offseason managed to see in what he had in Hope and of course Kale and Shanks, and see that together with Tarzan and Flandre, this can be a winner, I think is just so incredible. It just speaks to Tabe's skill, knowing what he has and what he needed to add, because I wasn't super hyped about Flandre here. And like for the longest time last year, everyone was saying like, why isn't Shea playing? Why is Flandre playing? Like, come on, like just put him in. Shea, school is out now. It's summer. Let him play together with Ruler. Let them go to the World Championship. Flandre wasn't hot shit coming into this one, and somehow he has put this team together, and everyone just looks like contenders for best players in their position at the end of this year. I mean, end of the split, sorry.
And if you look it up, I think this was like, by the way, like the 7th final or something for Tarzan, and he'd lost all 6 before that across the LCK, across LPL. So also, I think it's huge for people like that, because as you see with the careers of the Chovies of the world, when you finally win, bro, it's gone. The monkey's off your back at that point in time. At that point, by the way, if you play the way you did it out, you could just keep stacking these championships. As long as your team's good enough, you could just peel off like 3 of these motherfuckers in a row. Then all of a sudden that resume catches up really quick. As we said earlier, by the way, I would for real, here's what I love. I've said the whole split for me, anyone's legend is more like an LCK team in the LPL, in the same way as people used to say that about the other Tarzan team, the Tarzan Scout LNG. Because if you notice, he is just a Korean fucking control jungler, isn't he? He has hands, but he certainly doesn't just play like the loosey-goosey LPL style. Like, this guy does try to like do things that make sense. Put it this way, I don't think he's the guy that just goes in. I think he has to like understand what he's doing. He makes a decision. He commits like, right, this is the right angle for me. He goes for the percentage play, etc. Like right now, anyone look with GenG, I certainly wouldn't say they're the favourite, but I do think it's totally fair to say this is the 2nd or 3rd most likely team to win MSI, and Tarzan's a big part of why. On the Tabe part, let's quickly hit that. What I would say on this part is, if people don't know, this is also quite a cool revenge story, because obviously Tabe was the person, like you said, that made BLG relevant. I'll always point this out. In the year that JDG never lost any series, actually the LPL record was split for games won, not by JDG, by Tabe's BLG with Yagao back in that roster. And the difference is, when you go back to that roster, that was when they had the MSI, where they upset the Korean teams and knocked them out in the lower bracket. Like, that was one where you were like, wow, this BLG team's way better than they used to be. Like, this is quite a level up. And then you go after that. After all that success, they basically just told this guy, like, thanks, but no thanks. And then, like, they didn't give him I suppose he asked for a raise, and they just were like, nah, I don't think so. Mate, he's just gone with an inferior roster on paper and just beaten you heads up in the motherfucking finals. And he's on, by the way, back-to-back finals too. Like, this guy is one of the best coaches to ever play League of Legends. I mean, I don't know what analogy you want to give, because he hasn't had his main championships, but like, one of those people, you give him any team, they seem to level up.
And on the other side too, like Tabe is doing a lot of work for the homies that don't win trophies and still have an impact, because what top esports and what Bilibili tried to do, like they hired coaches that have won titles, and recognizing the context of how they won those titles and why they won those titles, whether it was Maokai, whether it was Big Way, whether it was home, like the context of that, and in terms of what you managed to do and what you did with it, that of course matters super much. It's like top esports right now. It's like we were of course praising them in the winter split for managing to make that super run, but now in spring the same way, like the criticism needs to fall that way too, of course onto home, that in the end top esports collapsed and played super poorly. Sure, you can look at trends and point to Jackie Love and of course Cream as individual players, and they take responsibility too, but I think that Tabe now finally will be appreciated at the level he should be appreciated, because the winning trophies isn't the end all be all. It's like what you manage to do on a lesser budget and managing to get to a certain point and compete with certain teams with less, it needs to matter. It just needs to matter. And in the end, it's like he managed to do even more than that. He managed to win, because I have to imagine that the budget of this Bilibili roster, just by virtue of the fact that Knight and Bin is on this team, it must be expensive as all hell.
Yeah. I mean, people say like Knight has one of the biggest contracts in the entire world, mate. It's like, I think it's something mental like $9 million or $8 million. It's some bonkers number like that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's no excuse on the BLG side. Like you've spent the money, mate. You've got the superstar players. These are even the players that like walk to every final, it feels like. So no, I think this is. I also think, by the way, that's also something cool for anyone's legend. It's one thing to win the LPL. Bro, you won it over like fucking Bin, Knight. Like these are the GOATs, mate. These are the players that are considered the best ever in their role. And right now, this is their era. Like I say, for them, yeah, sure, for them, they've won so many times. It's like, right, come back next split or whatever. But this is a big statement to win in this way. Because I also think if you'd have been Tarzan or Tarbit and you finally win, but then you win over like fucking WE or something, like, who gives a shit at that point? Then it'd be like, nah, it's just because you didn't play the good team. Bro, they beat BLG twice in 2 BO5s. Like, that is legit as fuck. It doesn't get much more legit than that. And I want your thoughts, and I did it before. What about if this team goes to MSI? Because I have to say, I'm not doing it because they're not called TES, but I don't actually have the same fear I did for TES when TES actually looked like the best team, contended with them for most of the split. The difference is, I can't know how Shanks will play. That's the biggest question mark complete for me. Look, I know how Flandre plays. I've seen him play many, many times. I don't think that's a player that's going to like shit the bed. Tarzan will be interesting because obviously he has had all those international underperformances, but I feel like first of all, he wasn't at the MSIs, mate. He's got the double elim factor too now. Everything's a BO5. Very good chance now. You're not just playing some randy little BO3 or BO1 that you can look bad in. I want to know, what do you think? Can they win MSI? Can anyone's legend win the MSI?
I think now in an era of fearless and double elimination, I think the double elimination works against them because they are the underdog. I think just double elimination just works against you because of that. I think there's opportunities to out-prep teams because I do think like GenG gave opportunities in the How Alive series. I think a big criticism towards them throughout the best of threes was like, oh, what is this draft? They're going to win anyway. They're GenG. And that eventually catches up to you. I do think on the prep front, it's like that's such a trend we saw in winter for all the winners. We saw it for all the winners in spring too, whether it was T1 or of course like anyone's legend. It's like if they come into a series and like especially now with Fearless, it can branch off into certain areas. And if it branches off into an area where you have more expertise, I think that anyone's legend as a team in certain specific scenarios can be like beating teams. And I think Fearless just offers enough chaos that you can create opportunities through prep. I think that the underdog, I don't even know how I would view a series between T1 and AL due to the context of the players. I think it's hard for me to imagine anyone's legend beating T1 in a BO5. Like it's hard because of the context of T1. But at the same time, if I just look at in-game and the gameplay, I do think it's possible. But the caliber of experience that you carry just matters so much. And I just wonder how anyone's legend as a team mentally are going to just land. But in the end, once again, Tabe as a coach, you know, Billy walked into that MSI twice. The first time when they went with Tabe, of course, they managed to beat GenG and T1 when they came into that tournament looking quite fucking strong. And I think it's entirely possible. I don't agree with the narrative that the community has that the LPL is just bad, because I do think every region on paper looks competitively worse due to the fact that Fearless is there. Because there was a big conversation about how, LCK looks a lot better. But LCK last year, it's like that spring finals between T1 and GenG was probably the greatest LCK finals ever, unless I'm forgetting something in the past, of course, with like OGN or whatever. But I'm talking LCK strictly in the new era of League. That was like T1 and GenG walking into MSI. They look like absolute demons. LCK, it's up and down in terms of the performance. And I think the same thing for the LPL. And I think the biggest pain point for the LPL is that the flagship team in Bilibili is just not as good as they were last year. And I think on the other side of LCK, GenG actually managed to find ways to improve the roster in an absurd, fucked up way by, just bringing Ruler back. And Duro happening to be super, super good. So in that context, I do think LPL is coming into this tournament with something to bring, similar to previous years. I think LCK comes in as favorite, but LPL shouldn't be underestimated. Exactly the same as the other years. I don't think this is too different.
I actually think it would have been worse for the LPL if I'm judging how they do if BLG had somehow won this final. Because for me, BLG had, even when they're at the absolute peak, they split. They're like 90% of what they were last year. They're just not the same team that could have won Worlds. They were really like that far from winning. So for me, I actually think it's really positive that anyone's legend. If people forget, in the whole split, The two teams that were in the race for number one was TES and Anyone's Legend. And it's mainly because TES won head-to-head. It felt like they were the better team. And they had the names. Everyone knows all those names. But we were all scared if they go international, like, what are they going to do? Are they going to let you down as usual? Like, certainly, I'm still reserved on the Tarzan angle. I have to see him do it. I've had the faith already, mate. I've had the faith through many times. I've got to see it actually happen. But I tell you what, I don't think it's implausible now. Like I say, I do think winning does change things completely. The Shanks one is really exciting. Like, I could see a world where Shanks comes to this tournament and it's like fucking KC going to first stand. Like, actually, they don't just completely fail. Like, they get the shit together. They have really good games. They show out. You have pop-offs. Like, if that happens, then all of a sudden, as you say, the real series you want to see is Anyone's Legend T1. That's going to be the test, because T1 also isn't like the number one team in the world, but they've just got all those intangibles, haven't they? And all the like clutch factor and experience. I would just love to see that series. Also, I would just love to see, if you want to see Tarzan play against someone spicy, give him Owner. Mate, Owner's been unbelievable this year. Give him this Owner. The joke of T1 is this might be the best year Owner's had, mate. I think he's actually smurfed this year. It's just the team wasn't as good. It just shows how funny people's careers are when you peak and when you don't. So, yeah, it's certainly fun. Whereas for BLG, here's why it's fun they still go. Look, I don't think they even should have a crack at the final. But I'll tell you what, if you want to punch his chance, mate, pop at Knight on an Ari, give a Jax to Bin, get Elk on the fucking Kaiser, give on an Engage champ. They can make the fucking game spicy. They can at least make it fun. Like, by the way, the obvious one I'd like to see now with both teams in complete form is actually BLGT1. Now, that would be a fucking fun series. It might be messy as fuck, but I'll tell you what, both those teams, like, that's not the fight where people are going like, we'll turn down this dragon. That's just a fucking bloodbath till the end. You know what I mean? Like, that's the series I want to see, mate. Might end up being like for third or fourth place or something, but that could be a banger series.
We are eating good for this MSI. Like, you know, in a world where formats are plaguing us and we have so much pain, God bless that MSI changed, because if we were sitting here with the previous format, it would be depressing. It would be so sad. You know, single elimination, silly group stage, it doesn't matter.
Silly shit, yeah. No, I always tell people, I don't care what anyone says. MSI is the best tournament in League of Legends. It's amazing. Like, every year I look forward to it, because that format, it just delivers, mate. It's almost impossible for it to be bad. Essentially, unless the teams just all play like shit. The format itself is just so strong. It makes the narratives, it's so good. Even that one you were talking about a couple of years ago, that's now, the joke is, BLG, by the way, got beaten by JDG both times, but we all remember them knocking out the Korean teams. That was dope in the lower bracket. They took fucking T1 and Chovy GenG. We're like, you just watch us play the fucking, the finals, the LPL, dickhead. It's a rerun. There you go. Enjoy, sit back, enjoy your soda, and wait for Worlds Korea. No, I think it's cool. And you are right if you think historically. Aside from that GenG one last year, mate, the MSI largely is a fucking LPL tournament in the same way as Korea wins all the worlds. Mate, LPL's record at MSI is unbelievable. I mean, even the years when they're not as good, like last year, BLG was still in the final. I know everyone deletes that from their brain, all the T1 glazers. BLG beat you twice, mate. What are you talking about? Like, they all got, that's why what they do last year is they only focus on fucking top esports, don't they? Like, but look at top in the below bracket. No, you little rat. How about look at the fucking top two teams? Exactly, fuck you. Anyway, I think what we do now, Yamato, is we need to switch things up. And do you know a device that has the ability to switch between things?
Yes, sir. You know, I'm still in a position where I mistakenly forgot my Raycons at my brother's house. But he has informed me. He has informed me that he's using them. He's actively using them. Okay. So at least they're being put to use. You know, we've had this conversation so many times, but I gotta say it again. Raycons, the fact that they are so compact, so small, you get to just bring them with you anywhere. You know, the convenience of just having them in my jacket pocket and knowing that they will never be out of battery, because they just last for 32 hours somehow.
Yeah.
Never out of battery, and they'll always be there because I can just carry them with me. You know, it's like having them in your pocket and knowing, like, let's say you go on a midnight stroll, you're hanging out with people, and then you're on your way home, you get to plug in your headphones, and you don't need to carry something bulky and look ridiculous. You know, usually that comes at some kind of a cost in terms of quality, or maybe, you know, active noise cancellation, because usually those little things, there's not enough room for that technology, but somehow Raycon has managed to include active noise cancellation. I already mentioned, of course, the battery. Even if somehow you forgot to charge them, you can just supercharge them. Boom, 90 minutes, you're good to go. You can even charge them for a little bit. Sometimes I charge them for 5 minutes and they just hold throughout my whole gym session and my shopping session and my walk home, which is like 3 hours, no problem. I don't need to worry at all. It's like sometimes I'm very forgetful and these are just the perfect headphones for me. And I miss them super, super much. But at least my brother's using them. And he's super, super happy. You know, the active noise cancellation, I'm always so annoyed, especially in Sweden. It's like in Germany too. It's like the music they play at gyms just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Sometimes you get some Schlager, you get some pop hits. It's like, who's getting pumped listening to this?
Okay.
You know, it's like
music in the gym. I know. Listen, the gym. There's only two types of. I tell you what. There's 3 types of music we want in the gym. Listen up, gym owners. Hip hop music, metal music, or we want like fucking progressive house that never ends. Is all mixed together. Those are the 3 genres. We don't want like fucking, you know. I losing my innocence on the backseat. We don't want that shit. Come on, man. Come on.
You know, I never broke PRs listening to Ed Sheeran. You know, like it's just how it is. And the Raycon AirPods, they're just super sleek because I like the big bulky ones with the noise cancellation. I always sweat a lot, super much. They stick in my ear, they fit there, they don't move. I can be moving around, swinging my head, and they just don't leave, my ears, which is a super big plus. If for some reason you buy Raycons and who knows, you're not happy, you can just send them back. 30-day guarantee, no questions asked. You can just send them back, which is super cool. I think I've said everything that needs to be said. You can customize them however you want. You can upgrade your life now by, of course, buying Raycon. Go to buyraycon.com/LFN to get 15% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds. Right now, Raycon is offering 15% of their best-selling everyday earbuds only at buyraycon.com/LFN. That is once again buyraycon.com/LFN. You gotta go upgrade your life. You're living in the past. Stop listening to pop music and just break new PRs with Raycon earbuds.
Also, here's an underrated aspect. Obviously, I love any product that we sell that you can use to listen to our show. So the cool thing is, as you say, because they're so compact and easy to charge, if you say an episode of Summoning Insight drops, remember, you don't always know what time it's going to drop on the day, and you're about to head out the door, take your Raycons with you, you compare them, just listen on the fucking car ride, whatever. You can listen to the VOD, can't you? There you go, OP. Pretty good. Also, I'm not so narcissistic. I do imply that you'd use all products to just listen to us even more. Just more Thorin in your life. There you go. Right. I think what we do now is we swap over. And believe it or not, I'm not even going to give a diss. LTA Final was actually very fucking entertaining to watch. And by the way, it's funny. One of the areas I've often been the person who pushed back against is anytime NA gets good teams, right? Well, we all know they don't actually believe they can do anything at Worlds. So they don't talk shit on Worlds. They always just go, we'd beat EU, because to NA, we just live rent-free in these motherfuckers' heads because of the track record so one-sided over the years. Like, they have to do stuff like, yeah, but we placed higher even though we didn't play you, which is like, here's the medal. Here's that medal for placing higher than World. Still coming 5th. Well, here's your medal for Worlds, guys. Right? Joke is, EU actually has like silver medals from Worlds, fuckface. But this final, I actually think not only was it good, it wasn't good just like a Clown Fiesta. These teams actually played some pretty good League of Legends too, mate. Like, one thing, let's start with actually the loser first. Let's start with Cloud9. Because one thing I want to ask you is this, right? Am I just being biased when I say this? But I genuinely think, Yamato, if I think of Cloud9, right, last year, I actually think it was a very shrewd move to bring in Thanatos. Yes, the problem people had was it didn't add the shot calling that the team needed. But in my opinion, as you see now, this is a player that can be in this team for years, mate. It just looks like a very solid, like the baseline level of play this guy brings is very impressive for me. One of the best like players, imports to a Western region I've ever seen, even though he hasn't won the championship yet. Then you go and look elsewhere. Coming into this year, obviously it's a massive deal to let Jojo go and bring in the Loki guy. Like, that's not a player that everyone like knew would be good. Looks like it's worked awesome. But if you bring in 2 Korean solo laners that are super strong, and your issue used to be shot calling, my obvious assumption should be, well, that's not going to fix it. Like, where's all the macro going to come from? Bro, people are going to think it's just because I know it's Dom. But if people don't know, Dom is like the analyst of this team, along with obviously their coach staff, etc. I feel like that's actually an area that's mad underrated. It's not just Hans in this team. I do think they've gotten way better in that regard. Look, I actually think that's why it's fair they lose to FlyQuest. FlyQuest is probably the best at that aspect now. But Cloud9, I do think they've improved, like how they play the map, how they play out comps, etc. Like, don't you think like it's not just a hands team, right?
I do think in terms of how fast they play, it's super impressive. I feel like NA as a region is very, very in tune with the in-between. It's like the in-between of the setup of the objectives. That's where opportunities find themselves in terms of how waves are set up, and also if you actually have grubs and leverage that. That's something I don't see too much in EU. On the other hand, they are very, very fast at understanding when they need to overload. And I think C9 found so many dive opportunities that were really, really good. It was like that very disappointing game where they like dove and they gave 4 kills. But the opportunity that presented itself off of the play is what is crucial to me. I do think that the implementation of Loki and Thanatos is like mechanically we knew they would be good, but things are working for the C9 team. In this particular alteration, the fact that they could bring in Sven to add the voice, Blabber as well, a player that is also experienced. The fact that they could put in Sven as the ADC and him after, I think he played decent on Dignitas, but that team didn't accomplish shit. The fact that Sven arguably was like the best player.
Oh, he was very good in this final. Yeah, for real.
Is nuts. Is really, really crazy.
When you think about this, mate, there's a world where he never comes back to ADC. Like, this guy's doing it as ADC as well. Like, this is just an all-time great player. Remember, he came up after Reckless, and he's still playing at like a very competitive level. Yeah, for sure.
And he's doing it against a player that is Masu. It's like Masu is insane. He's a very, very strong player in the AD carry position. The year Masu had as a rookie is one of the most impressive rookie runs we've seen across many regions. It's like North American pays to some degree. Coincidentally, he smoked pays in that BO5 against GenG that made them so competitive. Yes. And I think C9 as a team, the way that it ended was so damn disappointing, right? It's like we saw how Blabber tried to find the angles on a Caitlyn that had no flash. It came out now, comms-wise, that I believe this is something that like the team called for. It's not something that you can only blame Blabber for, but it's just it's so typical, you know? It's so typical because they had the full setup on the Dragon. And this is something that I know that every coach fights with. It's like fighting on the mid wave is one of the most cursed things that you can do. You just need to play in your setup, invite the enemy into your fortress. Don't stick your head out of your bunker to let the enemy just snipe you. You know, that's not just something that you want to do. I know that the whole C9 coaching staff was looking at Dom's reactions like, no, what are we doing? Why are we engaging the mid wave? We have full control over Drake. It's our soul. That game was so heartbreaking. I feel like both series that C9 played was so damn close.
Oh, they could have won both of these series. Like they really could have been the winner. I thought both. If you like this final, go watch the upper bracket game they had. It was also a fucking banger too.
It was just. It seemed like the main difference was the maturity of the rosters, right? I think that FlyQuest as a team is like, this is the only team that has stuck together out of any team globally. Like every team has made changes, whether it was G2, Bilibili, T1, all your classics, GenG, all teams made changes. FlyQuest didn't. And I think that this team just in these moments, I did feel like experience kind of edged out because there was some crucial moments that you don't find yourself in practice. You don't find yourselves in those situations, in scrims. And I do think that FlyQuest being together for a longer period really, really mattered here. But with C9, what they have as a foundation, there's no world where these guys can't catch up. Like they have a very, very solid ground. And to think that they can only send one team to MSI,
I wish I could really see this C9 team there. I think it would make the tournament so much better. I don't know who's gonna. I don't know. I don't follow the South region, so I can't comment on them. I'm not Peter Dunn, but Cloud9 surely is better. Come on, must be.
No. I watched some of the Furia games, and I can say without a doubt the C9 is better. It's like Furia is exciting in the sense that I can just add as a small segue because I did to take the time to watch. Is like It's a team with only Brazilian players in a world that is like riddled with like imports with names like Trimby and former like LCK players and all the teams. Like they won against a team with 2 imports, like an import mid lane and so forth. And Furia is coming in with a couple of rookie players that actually like mechanically look exciting. They kind of like, if there was any parallel, I do think they look like what a top Vietnamese team could look like in terms of just being able to team fight and being able to play. I would say that their jungler Tattoo is the guy who impressed me the most because he has like that range of play in terms of being able to play carries and also being able to understand how to play some of the tankier junglers. So even though I think Furia is going there to the tournament to get slaughtered, I do think that, you know, as a team, they are fundamentally super interesting to watch. I think they can, you know, have some team fights win. But back to the initial point for sure, sending C9 to this tournament would have been like better in terms of just competition. But I think that the Brazil fans are also aware of this. Like, they didn't want to make this change just because they would have access to an international tournament. They wanted to keep their storylines. They wanted to keep, you know, the feuds within the region because they knew at MSI or at any international, they would, in a lot of cases, get, you know, a little bit disappointed. So this trade-off, you know, like we mentioned, MSI being a good format, we are back to some of, you know, the pain points of format makings across the board.
If you look at this final, right, the 2 games C9 won, they were fucking stomping. And then the last 2 games of the series that FlyQuest has to win out are 2 of the closest games you will ever see. Like, those 2 games are just neck and neck. So it's why I agree with you. This is one of those times where when you finish second, you can't be satisfied. Like, you look at that and you're like, fuck, we could have won this. Like, we really could have. We just lost twice to these guys. And then this one, I think, was the harshest loss of all. In fact, you even look in that game 4, early on, you think C9's just going to get the win, mate. They're just going to actually follow up and it's just going to be FlyQuest living off game 1. So brutal for C9, brutal. I have to say it is harsh because I do think they've been very good this year.
It was so damn close. I have to say on FlyQuest side, it's like Whippo in terms of his performance, like we already mentioned, is like him getting all pro is crazy talk. Like Whippo was taking risks that was so damn unnecessary. Like that Choga game, the fact that game was even close at all. I think that Busio and Whippo, they were making some crazy mistakes in this series that removes FlyQuest from this identity of being insanely disciplined as a team and being willing to like unleash the aggression of Whippo at the times that call for it. I got game 2 that C9 won. It was like mostly just Busio getting caught on Nami by every Maokai ult while standing behind Lucian. That just happened like 4 or 5 times in a row, and C9 got all the traction in the game through that in a world where like Yon is playing against Annie, which should be a tough matchup. There was some mistakes here from Busio and Whippo that made this series, you know, swing in C9's favor in a lot of cases. And looking at what FlyQuest bring to MSI, I don't think this is the same version of FlyQuest that beat Team Liquid in the fashion that they did and went to the World Championship. This is not the FlyQuest that I would say would have instantly an upper hand against the likes of Koi, because obviously everyone wants to hear like the EU-NA conversation, but it's like, I can see a world where Koi beats these guys because FlyQuest is coming into this tournament with a lot of flaws, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the difference is the actual flaw of their game has been way low. Think how many times they've lost like randy-ass series this year, especially regular season type ones where it's not as important, like early on. Oh, it's crazy. Like they haven't shown the consistency at all. The difference is they've clutched it out. I'll give them credit in that sense. Yeah, they clutched it out in these series. Even the thing with Whippo, I know what you mean. When I see those all pro, or whenever FlyQuest wins and I see every Whippo fan in the comments, I'm like, what reality do you live in? Like, he's barely getting through some of these fucking series, boys. Like, that's why I do think it's so crazy. He then would even have the gall to be telling people he's going to teach them how to play the game. Teach yourself, motherfucker. Like the famous saying, like, physician, heal thyself. Like, what's going on with you, mate? Like, your game's randy as fuck. Like, also, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, but Mithy is so classy. It's funny. It's so, you know this guy a bit. It's so weird to me because as a person, first of all, as a competitor, he's a mega like harsh competitor to his teammates, to opposition. But also, he's the sort of guy where privately he talk mad shit on everyone. I've always told people though, he doesn't do it like egotistically. He does it like, oh, they're all just trash. Like, oh, that EU player, who gives a fuck? They're nothing compared to the Koreans or whatever. He like that. But as a coach, he's always put this like perfect PR look onto everything of like, you know, sorry guys, I lost. Like, oh, great performance by the opposition. But I know deep down inside that burning ember of competition still exists. So he did a tweet, right? And even though it's the perfect time, Yamato, to be a toxic little Western shit and just flex on the guy who fired you, because he's on his own Tarpey arc, isn't he? Where he was obviously like removed from Cloud9 after all those finals. And then he's gone over to FlyQuest to be a coach there. This would be the ultimate moment to be like, How do you like me now or something, right? But he didn't. Instead, he did the classy one. He goes, that was another crazy close series. Super proud of everyone's hard work and dedication this split. Always fun to play against the boys at C9 LOL. So all I did was, I just took that and I just said on Twitter, translation, LOL, another split lifting the trophy when C9 watches. How you like me now? And I would have put Jack. How you like me now, Jack? Listen, if you're Mythy, he's won all the fucking splits since then. He's fucking smurfed it. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool storyline.
No, definitely. I think it just was put in a better role. I just
I think they bring him in. Nuke Duck's so smart. Think about it. Nuke Duck has that like confident personality to enforce the changes. Whereas this way, you just let Mythy's brain do the work. Yeah,
for sure. It's like someone asked me the other day. It's like, what is the difference between like an analyst and a coach? And I said, it's like the coach is usually just socially capable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that's just the difference. It's like both have the knowledge and so forth, but it's like the translation of that knowledge is the skill set usually like the head coach should carry. And Mythy, we had so many stories of like how he was like blunt about situations and how he wanted to communicate things his way, which I respect. I respect it a lot, because his reason behind why he does it is completely sound. It's like, yeah, we need to be rational, because if we're irrational, we're not going to plan appropriately because we're not looking at the details for what they are. It's like, oh, this bot lane is better than my bot lane, so we need to prepare with that in mind, which is fair play, fair play. It's like in terms of how you massage that message and get it out of certain players, is always very different because players are very unique and some are very, very fragile. It's like you can have that in mind and still massage that narrative into a player in a different way. The same way, like for example, with Vitality, it's like my bot lane was weaker than most bot lanes. So I made them play champions that nobody else played. Like we played Caitlyn, we played Draven, just because I wanted them to have an edge in the matchup and a matchup knowledge. But I didn't tell them, you guys are worse, so we're gonna play different shit, But that's just the Mythy way, and you gotta love him for it. And I think on this team, what the impact he had on Busio is so clear. Even though this series Busio was kind of an intel, but I'm sure Mythy as a person is gonna fucking tell him. Mythy's gonna review that shit, and he's going to make sure that Busio gets his shit together. And I think the Mythy storyline is simply incredible. I did see. I thought when you brought up the tweet, I thought you're going to say the tweet he left under the Zen post, where he just said Zen was like the best player of the series, which I thought was pretty.
So remember, that was his boy back in the day, the best in the West bot lane. True, there is that part. But then again, that's what, if anything, doesn't that highlight how insane Sven is? Mythy's onto a whole second career that he's now had for like half a decade. Sven's still playing now. He's still playing now and really good.
Oh, that's
nuts.
Oh, Sven is such a underrated player in terms of what his career has been.
I always tell people, mate, if you actually show someone his resume, he is insanely underrated. Like this guy has a resume that is like comparable to like the Recklesses of the world, like the best Westerners ever. His resume, like you want to talk resume, top 5 resume ever from the West. Unbelievable resume.
Yeah. I was like the main pain point for him is just like the internationals again. It's like he had that one. Finals, I believe, with G2, right, and at MSI.
We had the OG semis.
Which it's like you beat Flash Fools, I remember those, but it is a semi for sure.
Listen, TSM didn't fucking beat him, did they? Boom, chance to roast TSM after all these years. There you go, keep going.
True. But in terms of his regional record, it's like every team he's been on has been a top 2 or top 1.
Well, if you look it up, I'll actually do this. I feel like at this point in time, the most of this guy's career was just in the finals every fucking split. Like, it's outrageous how many finals he's been in Yamato across both regions. Like 1 million. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's like people like there was a stat that was showcased on the broadcast. It was like Sven's win ratio in game 4 and 5s. And the total of games was like 60. I was like, he has played 60 game 4 and 5s? That's a crazy number of game 4, 5s to even have played. The win ratio was like 60 something, right? Because of like G2 era. And then there's been like memes about his like game 5 because of like the TSM Ezreal moment. But in terms of being relevant for so damn long in eras where AD carries were like insane. It's like when he came into Europe, this was like one of the peaks of Reckless. This was like Forgiven era. Like Sven was the ADC at the point in time. It's like, sure, the finals was lost, but that was a series that went to 5 games against one of like top 3 rosters in European history. This was like the Huni reign over fucking Reckless roster in 2015 summer, and that was fucking his first split. Like Sven's career is extremely underrated, and the reason I wanted to bring up like his international, the reason I wanted to bring up like the international performance is because I think in terms of having the conversation of who is like the GOAT ADC, it's weird because both Reckless and Sven went to the support position, but as a support also, like Sven had way more success than Reckless. Arguably, of course, Reckless went to T1, so it's hard to compare.
He didn't go to T1. You're wrong. He went to T1 Challenger. I'll never let anyone say that because we all know when you say T1, it sounds like you're in the real team, mate. No. He went to T1 Challenger, which is nothing. Okay. Which is literally nothing. Sorry, it's true. It's true.
It is true. But the GOAT conversation of ADC, I feel like you probably have like a better, you're better in tune with it. It's like the Reckless versus Sven conversation.
The EU is amazing. The reason why the EU GOAT conversation for ADC is amazing is because you actually have these people where you have basically like 4 names probably deserve to be in there. And the problem is 2 of them have never won the championship for giving an upset. That's just body of work, dominant style. Reckless and Sven have a bazillion championships and finals, but then the question becomes, were you the man in the final? How were you playing at the time? Were you ever carried? So it's actually quite interesting because I actually think if you look, like, it's why I actually do think it's just a preference one you just pick. I probably would take Reckless overall. Depends if we're talking all of history. It's pretty good. If Upset can put some championships up, we can maybe change that convoy. He hasn't done it yet, though. It's just true. He has underperformed in playoffs. I think Sven's more in the middle for me. I never felt like he was like bad in these runs. He wasn't as much as a support, obviously. But I do think like as an ADC, there's been times when he was the best. I thought even in OG he was very good, actually, considering he had God solo laners. But there's been times also where sometimes it's mid laners that are the carry and he's like the one that's just good, The key thing is I was looking up there, just from quickly counting up and doing it on that. It looks like he's been in 12 domestic finals. 12! That, for like, as I said, for like a 10-year period, that's what, true, some of those are support, but even that's crazy, because as you say, as a support, he was winning championships as a support too. Like, this guy's ridiculous. By the way, a bazillion international performance. It's also why I feel sad for him. He doesn't get to go to MSI. I feel like he earned it this time. This would be kind of a cool storyline for him. If there was the 2 spots and he got the second one, that would be dope, but sadly gets punished because there's only 1 fucking spot and FlyQuest in the region too. And Team Liquid, that's another bummer, by the way. The fact that you got now 3 teams that are interested. 100 Thieves, now this split wasn't really anything, but 3 teams on paper in Team Liquid, Cloud9 and FlyQuest, and you have 1 spot they're competing for. That's just kind of whack. And I just feel like over time, that's just going to make people invest less in the squads, because you can't just be the squads that are getting nothing out of it and just coming third and then not going to MSI, just sitting back at home. You're just going to spend less. By the way, there was one little piece of information, though, which is, did you see that Dignitas dropped the Certi guy and they're bringing Photon in? It's quite interesting. Yeah. Now, look, I could see all the coaches triggers the fuck out of them, because it's true. Dignitas did that usual PR bullshit where when you recruit the rookie, you're like, we're building around rookie talent and this is the future. And then you go, oh, what's that? Well, we're not very good now. Just bring in anyone who's good right today, which is what the Photon move looks like. So people know Photon's strengths are all known. Mechanics are nuts, laning's really good, but he clearly like has the diss. The joke is he's like Alfari, but Alfari's excuse didn't fly because he speaks English. Like, no one knows with Photon. So they did. So here's my problem. I think Photon's way better than Certi, but I get that it is true. If Dignitas sold you the idea they care about rookies, then this is bullshit. It just proves it's not true. I'm kind of glad because I'm just thinking to myself this, Yamato. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I now get to watch Impact, Photon, Bwipo, and Thanatos all play in the top lane. By the way, you can even then throw in Sniper. Actually, he's one of the better 100 Thieves. That's a pretty good top lane pool, actually. Like, this is that role, considering I think EU's weak as piss at that role. That's actually one area I'll give credit to LTA. They're gonna have a pretty good top lane pool, mate.
Honestly, like I would still say that the LEC pool is better. Like, especially knowing how Impact and Sniper are playing now in the server. I'm still with the LEC pool. Like, especially like looking at the names, I have way more faith in like a player like Broken Blade bouncing back. Midwin is like doing well, and we have Kana still. For me, knowing also Bwipo is not performing at an all-time high, I have to lean towards the LEC top lane pool. I think the LEC top lane pool is a little bit better.
I think LEC is just Kana and the rest. By the way, fuck your broken blade. Every time he actually has to carry to win, he doesn't do it, mate. Hey, what he wins championships in the fucking pocket of caps. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, that's right. I said it, motherfuckers. This was your time. All you guys who told me I was wrong for years about broken blade and enhanced armor, cool. Let's have caps go down 10% and see what happens. Oh, nothing. 0 championships. Weird that. You told me they were the goats. Weird how that goes. Now let's rewrite history and have upset play with caps the whole time. Wonder if he gets any championships. Because the one I can't handle, bro, is people just ignore the other teams these guys were in. Like Hans Sammer, you'd think he was perks the way people talk about him. Bro, he was in the TL super team that failed completely. He looked shit. He was in the fucking... they all forget the Misfits super team. He was given, by the way, a Hall of Fame support. So has top lane. He had Febiven. That was a fucking unbelievable roster on paper. It cost a lot of money. Complete failure. No, see it. By the way, this isn't like he came second, you matter. Some of these are incredible rosters that completely fail, and he's part of it. So I don't blame it all on him. Also, in Rogue lost every big clutch game they ever fucking played. He just carried that one Worlds where they were doing shit. That's it. So look, all I'm saying is I do think people take players, and especially if basically, I think what they do with people like Hansam or Whipple is what they do with Whipple and FlyQuest that we were just talking about. If the team's number one, then they get to be number one automatically. Now, I have to see it with my eyes. If you do it, then I'll give you the credit. There have been splits. I do think the last couple of years, Hansam was unreal. Those were amazing splits he was having where sometimes, by the way, he was the reason they won the finals. That's happened before. But I do think the problem in top lane in Europe is this. I agree. Some of those names in NA, it's mainly name value. I need to actually see Impact have a Renaissance split and pick it up again. But I also think you look at some of the names in EU, top lane is the worst position in EU, right? Canna is the shit. He is really good. But after that, you're saying Broken Blade second.
I think if I would make an all-pro for spring, I would put Midwin over BB in terms of like performance for sure. But
even then, Mirwin's a bit of like a fucking a weird character for a top laner too. I will say, I actually do think, by the way, an underrated part of his game is he did get a lot more stable this year. But mate, he was all over the place though. Like last year, he was such a he was one of the players that was like the EEG machine or whatever, just like that. It's like, yeah, that's an awesome game or a completely shit game. His picks, sometimes it looked like he counterpicked himself. Like, that's the sort of shit this guy was doing. He was off the wall with some of his picks.
Because I think...
if Merwin's your second best, you've sort of made my argument for me.
Because it's like, there's so many parallels in the flaws of how Spring Split looked like for top lane, for LTA and LEC. Because there's borderline the argument for it's Thanatos and everybody else. Of course, in LTA too.
This, I don't even think in EU though we even play to the top lane. Like LTA at least has carry tops, mate. In the LEC, everyone pretty much plays the weak side, right?
But pretty much, yeah. I think also if I look at Winter, I do think top lane in Winter was like so much better for LEC.
I'll give you that.
Because then BB played good. I think Oscarini was like maybe the best performing player on the team. Yeah. He was looking good, especially like that BDS series. They almost lost that shit. And like in terms of where they're at, I think there are similarities, you know? It's like Thanatos, everybody else. Because the players we mentioned, like Whippo, Impact, these guys are like not performing super well. And I think the same criticism that you levied towards BB is also like a completely fair play. Oh. But something we can add, because we mentioned like some of the news that came out, you know, in terms of Dignitas finding Photon. It's like you have BDS, they're designing Rooster from How Life Challenger. It's like finally we got some news out of the BDS camp. they got Rooster. Who
is this guy good? I don't know anything about this guy.
He's basically, you know, in the lineage of the Siwus and the Thanatos.
Because this feels like some fucking Allison chick. Yeah, they're come to kill the rooster. Oh, he is gonna die. Yeah, there you go.
Fuck it, bro. I have to say, the irrelevant take that I had a long time ago is just the age beautifully, you know? It's like, I was there at the front lines when everyone's telling me Irrelevant should replace every top laner in the league. And now he replaced, you know, joined this BDS roster and fell really fucking flat, man. I didn't think he would fall this flat. So to be fair, I didn't expect him to fall this flat. The same way, you know, certain things just happen, like How Alive getting 3-0'd by T1, but Irrelevant being back in limbo, like that is tough. It's like, this is the type of player that maybe might find himself on SK again, or he needs to do, you know, the challenger grind again. I don't know where this guy is going with his career, but there were moments where I was hoping this guy would do more, but I think there's reason to be hopeful about Rooster. Like the challenger top laners that have been churned out of Korea, they've had some crazy ones, and from my understanding is that Rooster is basically the next Seoul Thanatos, so the expectations should be high for this guy.
By the way, I'll tell you one area, just before they get too cocky, where I will take all the credit away from NA. Right, NA, how dare you ever fucking talk about the idea of like, you guys have JoJo now. Motherfucker, I just watched 2 Koreans compete for mid lane for the championship in your region. Again. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, your region is just boosted by mid laners from other regions. Like, you are aware, if they'd have just made a rule at the beginning of League of Legends that you're not allowed to import, NA would never have been relevant. You'd be fucking nobody. It'd be a joke. Like, I thought it was bad when it was Bergson and Jensen. Now it's fucking Loki Quid Quad. Like, are you kidding me? And essentially, I have to just wait for APA to just have Riot just give him his whole champion pool to have a chance. Like, it's just garbage, mate. And by the way, mid is still the most important position, so don't talk any shit. Like, you guys are literally boosted. And in this scenario, as we're saying, look, it's a great strategy, but literally your entire strategy as a region is based on like fucking digging around in the fucking... I won't say in the trash because some of these players aren't making it. In the creche. You're at the creche for LCK. Like that. Well, they're not quite ready yet. I'll wait till he gets a bit older. You're like, oh, I'll take little Timmy. I'll adopt him to my house. Come on, Timmy, dress up. You're only playing in a May. You're still playing in the minors anyway. LTA, come on over. Then he comes in. Yeah, give me a break. That's who runs your league. They run it. They run that league. Just like that's
finals,
why. That's why my banter.
North American players, 4.
Oh, it was ridiculous. I know.
It's the audacity of FlyQuest tweeting that shit, bro, about Georgia Pune. Come on now. Like, yeah, Whipple inspired.
That's why I had the banter, because I just said, how about you guys recruit some fucking NA players? Like, fucking dickheads. Like, you have not. You're fucking 2. That's it. Shut the fuck up. And they're not the focal points of the team. And all the coaches are European. By the way, explain this to me, Americans. Right, you know how follow me on this logic, Yamato. So the reason why NA players aren't as good, Yamato, it's obvious their server has bigger in Europe, and also they can't practice like Koreans can. Well, then how would that affect coaching, you moron? You can still fucking open the VOD in North America. Why are all the coaches from Europe and Korea too? Explain that to me, sir. Exactly. Shut the fuck up. Anyway. Sadly, Yamato didn't take that game. He's another one. There you go, Yamato. You're another person. Like my mate Jan Corson upset. You fucked up, son. We couldn't know it at the time because we thought it'd last forever, the gravy train. But all you had to do 2 or 3 years ago is take that NA gig, couple of mil in the bank. Oh, that's like buying Bitcoin now. You wish you'd done it, mate. You know what I mean? You couldn't know at the time. You never knew what was going to happen, but can never happen now, mate. That's done. We're over. As I said, the LTA is cooked, mate. It's that whole money millionaire gravy. It's over. The joke really is like it's not that Jojo actually prefers EU. It's that like we actually have better teams and more money now. Like he probably gets paid as much money on fucking that team, I imagine. You know.
Bro, like I did take the plunge, but then Trump just said no. So I did take the plunge in 2020. My contract in hand with Team Liquid. I was all right. 2 years Team Liquid. This roster didn't make playoffs somehow with fucking Core JJ. This is.
Oh man, that would have been beautiful.
Right,
so you would have had Jensen and fucking Core JJ, mate. Like,
Broxa Impact, you know. Mr. A new fresh ADC handpicked by Core JJ, you know, would have been glorious. But then said Trump, no more. We're closing the borders. GG, no more green cards. But I went to Sandbox. God bless, you know. That shit worked out for me, so I'm happy.
Well, the joke about that one that everyone always forgets is you were there when they had Summit, who I also think is another example of like, mate, this guy walked into NA and was just better than everyone. Like, the guy's hands were unbelievable. They always have been. Like, I've always thought, by the way, he is one of the... It's sad when I now see, because remember, he was in the same class as Keen. Mate, it's so sad when I see Keen gets to contest championships. Well, and then fucking Summit's just on that, like, fucking world tour that you all do. You go to the shitter regions and you try and get signed by some nobody LLA team or something. Like, what a fucking depressing career. Because that guy, I do think, talent-wise, was unbelievable, mate. Very special player.
Yeah. No, just complete waste of talent. I'm very sorry. I realize I have a food delivery. It's my Factor Meals. I just need to open the door. So you just keep them entertained.
Yeah, all good. Don't know why he had to just tell, but it is the thing. Technically, it could be true. They could actually be delivering the food because remember, even though it's not an ad right now, it does come like chilled or whatever, never frozen, and then you put it in your fridge. So obviously, they do deliver it to your house. With that said, yeah, people do forget that detail, by the way. In fact, I'll look it up really quickly because the thing people forget when Yamato actually coached in Korea, which I noticed they've just deleted from their brain ever happened, is if you go back to those splits, let me just look it up here. Yeah, he had Summit. That was when like Gorilla technically was still there as a support. It was a pretty interesting era.
My Sandbox 2020 roster.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now.
Not too shabby, yeah. It was a good time.
It's not bad. Yeah, not bad.
It was fun, you know. On the topic of Summit, like one of the most talented players, but at the same time, just one of the most immature players that I've ever had to work with. Just so immature and just took things so unserious and just wanted to do things that were fun in a very, very destructive way, you know, like what a waste of potential there, man. Just such a waste. Like I tried to push him over and over again, but he would just crack and break, you know. Because some players, you just invest more time into them because you believe that they can be more. So you just push them. And with some players, you just want to, of course, you know, you realize that this is how good they can be, and you're going to like pay attention and so forth. But it's like you decide how you allocate your time. And I really thought Summit could be special, you know, because he was laning in scrims, was laning super well against Kana, super well against Nuguri, but the maturity, you know, in terms of understanding the deeper aspects of the game beyond the things that he found interesting, it was just too hard to break through. And I think that's so visible.
The problem is he definitely was like some kind of like a forgiven of top lane where he just saw the game through him winning his lane and then being a dominant player, which is like, that can happen at times, but top lane has very rarely been the like you purely get to be the carry strong side player. And that's why I always thought the real tragedy of his career is he only had that brief period when he was in the LPL in that not very good FPX team. Mate, this guy seemed like he was cut out for the LPL. Like put him on a team where there's not a strong bot lane and just have this motherfucker go to town and just ego everyone. Play the Renekton every time you want, all the way out Camille, whenever you want, mate. Like the difference is in that region, look, I don't think he would have been a champion, but he could have been on like a playoff team where he was the star. That would have worked. I even think that's like the right region for him, but sadly, yeah.
Yeah, he would have fit.
Coaches talk. If you have those stories, they'll get around, mate. People, they will. They what people don't get is this: early in your career, your reputation lags behind you. Once you're past the middle point of your career, your reputation goes ahead of you. So that means even though like you might be better than the top laner on some other team, but the coaches will just ask around, what was it like working with him? Because they'll have some other connection in another team, or one of their old players was a coach of yours. And if the stories come back like you're talking about, people are just going to say no and go for the other guys. Too much talent in League of Legends. Too much talent.
Yep. I'm with you though. Like he would have fit right in that Breathe, Ale, like that box of players.
Sure.
Like he would fit right in for sure. Yes. It's some players, you know, it's like you can have the talent, but you just don't have the right mind for winning. I think we were talking about Europe. I feel like Humanoid is just the epitome of that, you know.
Yes.
Like I think
that's a good call. Yes.
It's like everyone can tell you and share with you how fucking smart and talented he is. But in terms of like how he is as a teammate, you know, and how much he actually, you know, enjoys the game, you know, I think that was like the main struggle always, the main pain point, you know, because in the signs of resistance, you're either a person that overcomes or you're a person that gives up. And you know, when things are easy, you keep winning like they did in that 2021, where that year, honestly, that Mad Lions roster was quite impressive. Like internationally, they were solid. They took Diamond to 5 games. The Worlds run wasn't too bad either, and they won 2 splits, the Mad Lions run. But that's because a lot of things, you know, as long as the effort gave you direct results, Humanoid is definitely a player that's going to like do a lot of work. But if he begins to give up on some of your teammates, it's rough, which makes me think about the dynamic of the current Fnatic, right? It's like, what is the circumstance of course, like Razork and Humanoid have now played together for 4 years. It's like, how do they feel about each other? You know, it's like, that's unprecedented in a lot of cases that players as two stick together for this long.
You know what? If there's one thing that Humanoid and Summit, Solo Laners, have in common, I'll give them props. They have crazy balls. You know the problem, though? They fucking stink at the right time. And you know what? If your balls stink, then Mando is the product for you because you can use it everywhere, can't you? On your balls, your pits, under the arms, all over the place. Butt crack, belly button, feet. That's right. I know some of you freaks out there. You can put it on your feet too. I'm not going to show you a demonstration. That's a different Patreon tier that you haven't access to. But yeah, listen, it cleans everything. That's the point. And by the way, as a man, I know you all appreciate out there. You were all doing the meme because that's who we are as men. We're not going to use 17 different types of soaps, are we? We're going to like the one that you can put everywhere. It's like that joke where have you seen the meme where it's like women have like 400 things for like eye, upper thing, and then men's is like all in one body thing. It's like hair, feet, head, car, cleaning off paint off a wall. Like we just go for that as men. We like the things that combine. Well, the good thing is you can put Mando all over the place, mate. Their whole body deodorant goes everywhere. Also, actually, the concept behind Mando is quite revolutionary. Basically, other types of treatments try to literally just stop you from sweating, but that's actually not good for your body. If you don't know, sweating is the way that your body like regulates heat. Well, what this doctor figured out, the guy behind Mando, is that it's not the sweat that's the problem. It's that the bacteria eats the sweat, and then that produces the body odor, the bad smell that no one likes, that makes people go, oh yeah, I think I'm busy on Friday, but really you just stink and you just don't know it. And by the way, I'm sorry, if you actually do stink, you won't know it, because since the smell will be consistent around you, it's the change in smells that actually your body detects and tells you what the smell is like. So you might not be aware of it. Well, the good thing is that Mando controls odor for up to 72 hours. So much like with a lot of the headphones and earbuds we talk about, where you don't have to charge it every day, you don't even have to actually use this every day, by the way. If you're just somebody who uses it every couple of days, maybe you only take a shower every 2 or 3 days, just make sure you include this in your routine and you'll be safe. It'll last quite a while. Also, it has all sorts of stuff, like it doesn't have any baking soda, it's paraben free, so it's got all the bad shit, none of it in there. It is clinically proven to control odor better than just using soap in the shower. It basically, there's a whole like level they do with it, and whereas on a normal level for soap it'd be a 5 out of 10, this gives you a 0 out of 10 for all those aspects. It's also America's #1 whole body deodorant. So the way you get involved is you want to try it first, right? If you've never had Mando before, you can get a starter pack, which is the perfect way for a new customer to test their products out. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, which is excellent, the cream tube deodorant, which is actually one that Maui from CS likes, and then 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash is a good one. I always say deodorant wipes, if you're a gamer, are excellent because you just put them next to your PC and use them when you got a break, and free shipping. So as a special offer for listeners of this show, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. You can see it's on screen there. That equates to over 40% off the starter pack using the code summoning, SUMMONING, at shopmando.com, which is SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. If they ask you, tell them that we sent you Last Free Nation, Summoning Insight, whatever. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Shout out to Mando. Right, okay. What even is there to talk about now? Talked about a lot of things, mate.
We talked about a lot of things. I feel like, MSI, we still have time to marinate on it,
We can talk a bit about that, true. By the way, it's still like a week or two away, right? Let's have a look. What day does it start? Do you remember?
I believe play-ins is in 2 weeks, I believe.
Let's see. It starts on the 27th of June. Okay.
We got 10 days until the play-ins. The play-ins matchups have already been decided. I'm going to pull them up real quick.
Right. I see. All right. I forgot about that. Yes. So, okay. Mate. This is like 2021 Worlds. Do you remember in 2022 Worlds? 2022 Worlds, you should know, you were there with Fnatic. In the planes, you had DRX, eventual winners of Worlds, and RNG, the MSI champions. And I always used to think, what is a plane at this point in time? I thought plane was the weaker teams decided who gets it. Why? So this is almost as bad. Billy Gaming is in a plane for the MSI. So if you're Furia and Gam, good news, you're in the MSI planes. Bad news, you have to beat Billy. What the fuck are you talking about? That's insanity. That's absolute insanity. What are we talking about?
Oh man,
that's so nuts, bro. That's so nuts.
I'm trying to find the matchups. I feel like they were announced, but I'm trying to find them.
It's not on the wiki, so maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah, because I remember reading that it was already like predetermined what the matchups are based on the results of first stand. But in this case, of course, LTA being represented by Furia, because it's like they won Winter, of course, in North America, so they get the #1 seed. I wonder if our dear producer is aware of the matchups. Maybe he can hook us up with the info, because I'm scrolling and not finding it. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's not official. I remember reading it, but I don't want to talk about the wrong matchup.
Let me have a look. I'm trying to find it. Is it not on Reddit anywhere?
I think if anything, I guess the main thing that we should talk about is like, is there a chance that G2 lose against GAM? Like I have watched, I've only watched the finals of GAM playing, and I had this like, I think they will beat Furia quite easily. I think Furia is mechanically super good, but I think G2 will be able to manage the pacing of the game too easy, because like CBLOL is basically like LPL light in terms of just taking every fight, contesting every fight, and the setups being extremely like inconsistent. And I think G2 matches up very well against that, because I think in the end they will have very strong lanes and they'll be able to like clear house. GAM is kind of like a similar version of that. Like, I think in terms of their individual talent and where they actually, the reasons why they took, I think, CFO to 5 games was because mechanically in fights, and also their early game is quite strong. It's like CFO, for those who don't know, of course, they have more like players that carry that history with them, like Junjia, Kai Wing, of course, and Dogo. And then they have the superstar mid laner in Honkyu, who is like super insane in the region. It's like he's just a super talent. I think if there's any player to look out for from this region, it is Honkyu, because I think that he can actually be like a reason, together with Junjia, why this team could potentially like win against the Western teams, similar to what we saw, of course, at first stand when they went 5 games to KC. That was a very close series against the KC that was actually like playing super well at that time, after they got the shit together after getting beaten by Team Liquid. But the G2 versus GAM, I think if GAM get early advantages, I think the idea of G2 currently, I think they're a team that is not going to be able to find comebacks super easily. I think that in my mind, when G2 has played these finals, that's like the main thing, is like, how are they going to feel in a world where G2 plays a qualification match against the likes of GAM? Like, that is an opportunity where I think that they could cause some damage. The GAM is getting experience, and they're going to be the underdog coming into that. I feel like this is a team that can be very free-flowing and take the opportunity to beat a team that should beat them. I wonder how G2 is going to manage those nerves. Because in the end, of course, if BB and Caps just leverage their experience and the prep is right there to defuse GAM, I think that's what's most likely going to happen. I think G2 and Bilibili is going to come out of play-ins. But GAM definitely have the capacity to put themselves in winning positions through their early game. Because I do think GAM's early game is quite good, and they're willing to fight, and they're willing to just make the fight mechanical. And I think that can be uncomfortable for G2 in some cases.
People, I don't think it's been officially announced at all, Yamato. I think what people saw is people claim that like your first stand will have something to do with it. So I think EU as a result would get like a better placing the LPL, and so in theory it would be like G2 Fury, I believe. But who knows if that's even true? Why comment on it if we don't know? And it's better to do what you did and just imagine all 4 teams. But check this out. I just found this though. This comment. Just read this top post. Like, Bin is so salty about them losing this final, mate. It's hilarious. Basically, before the final, he was making it like, going to compete. When he thought he could be the champion, still it mattered. But after losing, he literally said, apparently, he just put, although we lost the grand finals, anyone's legend is not a champion, just a winner of Split 2. After all, only the team who wins Split 3 is the champion. Therefore, it is literally fine to lose it. The most important part is to prepare for MSI. So even Bin's on some fucking crazy copium. Bro, If they're just the winner, well, then you're the motherfucking loser, aren't you, by that logic? Like, shut the fuck up. By the way, no final is ever okay to lose. That is a complete myth. In fact, one of the things I hate, if people don't know, one of my biggest pet peeves in sports and esports, Yamato, is when someone wins one of each type of competition and fans go, haha, he's completed the game. No. Think about this logically. If completing implies you did the best thing possible, which would you rather do? Would you rather win LCK, MSI, EWC, and Worlds once, or would you rather win 4 Worlds? It's obvious, isn't it? You'd rather win the 4 Worlds. That's so obvious, it's insane. So for Bin to say that, it's like, Bin, here's the problem, my dude. You haven't won enough LPL to say that. If someone comes along, like Zhao or something, and he says that, well, you know what? Maybe I better sit back then. He's had quite a few championships. Someone comes, mate, you're saying that after you've had a few. Like, nah, that's whack. That's whack. And also, they just straight up beat you in this one. Come on, you got to give it up. That mate, you are a champion if you win a split. That's a domestic champion. And we're not doing this LCK. It's only the last finals, the overall winner. We're not in fucking sports. What I love about esports is you can't, because I also think it's really bad for a game. I forgot to say this earlier. It's really bad for League of Legends to say only the team that wins in August is the best, because the fucking patch and the game changes all the time. I want to know who was the best in winter. I want to know who was the best in spring. I want to know who was the best in summer. That's a feature, not a bug. That's good that we get to divide up champions. And by the way, if at the end of the year you have 3 champions and you go, but who was the best? Great. That's a good conversation to have. That's not a negative. That is not a bad thing at all. What do you think about this copium from Bin?
Honestly, like, I'm with Ben here. I think that the LPL, I think they should have just removed the finals. Like, I don't see the point in the finals. Like, we had the 2 MSI teams. I think that the IG Bilibili series, like AL should have already gone as the first seed after they beat Bilibili one time, and then the finals is just clearly a waste of time. And I do think that
G2 agrees as well. They also want a format where the upper bracket winner should just be the champion and go, and then second place can compete for. Why are we even these finals that don't really even matter? You know, this is bullshit, really.
This is fucking that trophy they raised, fake.
Yeah, not real.
That blue thing with wings, that's some Spirit Blossom prop. That's some Riot that cooked up in backstage.
Though. I thought that trophy, because we've got, by the way, in Counter-Strike, we've got some dodgy ass ones. That one looks pretty dope, actually. It's quite unique, quite a cool design, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm happy when the trophy is a trophy and not a shield. Like, that's already, like, bro, the standard has been set so low in League that I guess the world's trophies are pretty damn sick and so forth. I like the LTA ones, the recent ones, but the shields. I just hate the shields.
Google right now what I'm about to tell you. Just Google IEM Cologne CS trophy. Mate, that looks like winning the fucking Champions League, bro. It's unbelievable, that trophy. Look it up. It's really impressive, mate. It's fucking baller, isn't it? Now that is a fucking trophy. I'm with you. The only shields that matter in League of Legends is Duncan shields, Thorin, aka the esports stuff. Whatever, bro. But no, I agree. It doesn't whack where you have like, because it looks like you just fucking won something in Harry Potter. Like, there you go, Potter, Quidditch. I'm like, get the fuck out of my face. You want a massive trophy? Like, we are the champions. Bin. Nope, just the winners. Sorry, we just won Split 2. The fuck out of my
fucking Bin. This is troll, bro.
Here's the thing, though. I know what you mean, though, Yamato, because here's the level I do fuck with Bin on. Oh no, he is on some forgiving shit. Like, only I'm the best player, so if I lose, it's because I lost, not because you won. In a bad way, I do fuck with that. Like, the ego is crazy, but it is swaggy. Like, I still think, by the way, the saddest thing that he didn't win finals was just how much more goated that like jacket toss at the beginning would have been. Just walking out, get this shit off me, fuck out of my face. That would have been dope if he then won the finals. Would have been baller as fuck, wouldn't it?
It's just, I don't know. I think Ben is just taking a page out of the the T1 book, you know, the T1 fan book. It's kind of like, you know, he's noticing. It's kind of like the parallel is like, like Trump won the election in America, and now it's like you have all of these countries where they have like their own mini version of Trump trying to play the same like book. In terms of like winning elections and shit, and like in terms of that trying to pulling things. I mean, like Ben is like, the T1 fans are using this angle to justify this. Oh, so what we lose doesn't matter. That's how we do it. Okay. I'm gonna just That's mine now. That's my strategy. Like we've seen this strategy before. Like this is a very common strategy, and Bin just tried to make his own. But usually you let the fans do the talking. You know, as a player, you should never fucking say this because I do think it's kind of fucking goofy. I feel like Bin loses some aura points here.
He does. He does.
I think like taking it on the shin and saying, "Yo, like." This like if he explicitly took the angle that you mentioned, I think that would have been based. But saying it doesn't matter, I think that's kind of lame.
It's because, like I say, mate, you've won 3 times ever. Why are you judging people winning, you fuck? And also, in that scenario, bearing in mind it wasn't like they won as a fluke. It's one thing, Yamato, if you'd have had like some GenG split and then you'd have been fluked in the final, maybe then you could get salty like this. They were better than you both times. They beat you in 2 of your 5s. By the way, it's not even like you played dope like the world's final. You even got outplayed at times by Flandre. And then also, they were the best team of the split. Like, just give it up to them, mate. Come on. You just give it up on that one. Every now and then you have to... Here's what been mistook there is... Every now and then, you only do it sparingly when you're someone like him. You got to like crack the persona and just like let the human out and be like, look, fair play to Flandre though. Like he outplayed me in that one. You win this one, but I'll be back for summer. And then here's what you do. You just say summer's more important. You don't say you're not a champion. Spoiler, winner equals champion, you fucking idiot bin. Those are just synonyms for each other. Like, why are you giving weird English lessons? In Chinese or whatever, like not the words mean the same thing. If you're a winner, you're a champion, aren't you? Think about it. Fucking hell. What a world. What a fucking world. Well, you know what, Yamato? I've heard some fucking nonsense, but it's beautiful to hear nonsense when it's through some Turtle Beach headphones.
Based.
This is the Stealth 700s. I'm not saying if you buy these, you'll be a champion, but you'll be a winner in my book. Shout out, Bin. No, because here's the thing. They actually have so many features on these that are actually dope. First of all, I'm someone who only ever bought super high-end headphones. I always bought the ones that were like $500. I was going crazy, like, because I was always so scared for so many years about the ones that are in the gaming section, because that tended to mean build quality is quite weak. In fact, I even think back then they used to make bad headsets just as a design to make you buy more, buy one every year. So build quality on these is excellent. Like, they're really sturdy. They fit around really nicely. You don't feel like they're all fragile. They're actually really strong. It's way stronger than the headphones I'm wearing right now just to do this show. Also, they've got that thing where it totally covers your ear. It doesn't feel all sweaty. It's got the memory foam to mold around your ears, so it's going to fit really comfortably. You won't have to, like, 2 hours be like, this is killing my ears. Like, I'll take them off, take a walk somewhere. You can just enjoy these all day long. They've got this awesome feature, the dual crossplay thing, where you can plug in to 2 devices. You can swap between taking a call while you're playing an Xbox. You can listen to music while you're on the PC. You can be cooking, etc., and be listening to something else where it's all wireless, etc. It's got the mic on it. It's got all sorts of mega features. I think it's excellent. I think it's genuinely an excellent piece of technology. Also has that thing where the way it charges is super good. Like, you don't have to worry about all the mic stuff. It has like this AI thing that like cleans up the mic quality, etc. So another thing people is when people do their headset, they're not like us doing shows. They don't test the sound levels and volume. So if you have a teammate who has one of these, he's also going to clean up his comms, make it way nicer. Yeah, awesome. Also, by the way, they're not just a headphone or headset company. They have all sorts of peripherals you could want. They have like flight sticks and driving things and fucking mice and keyboards. In fact, Monty even used one of their mice because they bought that rock art company. Obviously, shout out the old school, Yamato's old company. And if you want some of these, then it's simple. You just head to turtlebeach.com and you use the code. You've guessed it. It's summoning. Code summoning for 10% off your entire order. Anything it doesn't have to be the Stealth 700s, anything you order off their website. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code summoning. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please just say Summoning Insight or Last Free Nation. There you help us. You help yourself get a saving. You help your team because now you actually have proper comms, proper headphones. You can listen to the show anywhere. Shout out to Turtle Beach. Shout out to Bin for having a massive fucking ego. Let's hope he heard this on his Turtle Beach headphones. Right. Let's do some fan Q&A and then wrap.
Sounds good.
We'll do a brief break and we'll come back and do the question and answer section. Right, it's time for the final segment, which is, of course, the viewer questions segment. If you'd like to ask a question, subscribe to the Last Free Nation Discord. There is a channel in there, SI Questions, where you can put yours in there. Obviously, if you don't want your name read out, be sure to mention. Seems like no one has a problem with it so far. So I will take some from here. And I'm just going to do a mix now. Let's see. Okay, here's a fun one. Now, true, This is going to be tricky, Yamato, because we can't make the real one. We're going to have to go on what's publicly known to make this not offensive. But I think we can have some fun with it. Dr. Docky says, can you make a 5-man squad of the biggest party animal players of all time? Would they be able to drunkenly stumble their way into some good results? He himself even says, I can only think of Expeke, Smithy, maybe Kazi, he puts, but again, we'll go off what's like, what we'll try to do, Yamato, here is obviously if someone secretly is out, we won't do it, but I think we can go off public. Like, by the way, those are two pretty good ones. Smithy is literally known. If people don't know, Smithy, for real, they make it sound like he's doing Jackie Chan drunken style fucking Kung Fu master. Like, the guy was turning up hungover, like, you know, finish like a cigarette, like, oh, is it the fucking semis now? Oh, fuck, lock in Scarner, will you? And they just like out macro with like fucking IG or some shit like that. So that one's famous, and I think people do know by now. I've certainly promoted it myself. Expeke was wild because Expeke could actually party and then win the LEC while hungover. Like, this guy didn't fuck around, mate. Like, he just, there's the problem, the main reason we have to tell players don't do it is because 99% of you'll just play worse, it'll get in your head. There are certain humans they're just built different, mate. That term's been overused by your generation, but it's been built. Some people are just built different. So as an expect here, mate, the joke is I almost, even though this isn't true and it's toxic to all coaches if you say it, I almost feel like they do play better because in a weird way, the fact that they don't give a fuck when they're in the club on the Friday is why on the Saturday they also don't give a fuck and then they just win the championship. They kind of do have that like crazy like lack of pressure on themselves. You know, they never seem to get to these guys. Like they essentially they could do the Ronaldinho shit. It just no one else should ever do it. Unfortunately, that's why it's so bad because they're champions. You don't want to say it works because then some idiot's going to try it. But what? So who do you have any names to contribute to this? Who in LEC?
Well, Fabio, it's such a minefield, you know, like because I'm trying to parse through what's public and what's not public. Okay. It's like the obvious one they mentioned. It's like Humanoid has a reputation about him because of like his whole, you know, the Tomorrowland shit. But Tomorrowland shit, but at the same time, like this is not something that ever happened. Like mid split, it's more like, oh, the split is on a break. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Czech Republic and party. I don't know. Okay, what names are we missing? So we have Smithy, Peke.
Listen, this is a reach, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Didn't Bang from T1, world champion, do that drunken stream where like they fucking came over and they were like, whoa, what are you doing? Whoa, shut up.
That was Peanut, no? Was it Peanut or Bang?
Yeah, I thought Bang did it as well. Didn't Bang do it as well? I think Peanut definitely did it because that was the one where Cormac came. But I think they did it.
Yeah.
Have a look here. Oh yeah. Peanut was the one that Cormac came in. But I'm almost certain. Am I wrong on this one? I'm almost certain Bang did it as well. Because wasn't that the one where he ate the Burger King and then he like told fans he would never eat that burger and they're like, you betrayed us. You said you never eat Burger King. I'm someone must know what I'm talking about. I'm almost sure that did happen.
I remember that Reddit thread for sure. Like that just translated the stuff.
In that case, we've already got a pretty decent team, right? We've got fucking Sohaz Expeke solos with Peanut as the jungler. What's our bot lane then in this scenario?
I think Kazi's a good one, right? Like Kazi, I'm happy with.
Is he to party?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, straight up, it's like we had that Sackdown episode, and he just straight up said, "It's like I don't want to do tryouts with my teammates. I want to go out and party with them to know how they're like. You know, are we gonna vibe? Are we gonna unz to the same music? Like, are we gonna enjoy the same shots? Is he a Jägermeister guy? Like, this is important shit for me to be able to play with him. Support. I feel like most supports are reserved. Like, there is a story. I'm not going to say his name, but there was a support that has won a split at some point in time. And we booked scrims against this team on Mondays. And we would just go into the lobby and they would say, our support is gone. We can't find him. He has disappeared. And I asked, what happened? It's like, well, he partied yesterday and no one has heard from him since. And that happened on, I think, maybe 4 or 5 occasions. And this is like, you know, you don't scrim against teams that often, but it was always like clockwork. That Monday, their support was just MIA. And they were just praying, hoping that he'd be back. And he won a championship. I won't mention names.
Maybe support's just a position that doesn't have as many bad boys, though. You know what I mean? So
yeah. We just need to let's say the Bang Whopper thing. We just put him support.
Yeah,
He's
it's all
got the
good.
experience. We put him in there.
I'm almost certain I do remember that right, but it's all good. Doesn't matter. It was we are talking about something like 8 years ago. So, right. Listen, I'll just do it because you know what? This show is just raw, mate. We don't fuck around. So Yamato, architect of Korean esports based show, asks, "What is your take on the classic mermaid question? Would you rather bang a mermaid with upper body human and lower body fish, or upper body fish and lower body human? Which would you pick?"
I think for me this one is easy. No, I like the upper body human.
I vote. What? What?
Yeah.
No. What? Nani?
Upper body human.
Explain why.
Well, you can do a lot of things with an upper body. Like the upper body is where all the personality is. That's but you're gonna fuck something that has no face. Bro, fish face, a fish head.
Listen, there's already ugly women in the world. You can put a fucking paper bag over their head, can't you? And then you go into the fucking town on that shit. In fact, I even think for all the young guys out there, incredibly underrated aspect in life, a woman who just doesn't have a beautiful face. She's a bit ugly in the face, but the body's fucking banging. She works out in the gym. That's a smart investment right there. Eventually, everyone's face is going to drop off, mate.
But you said this, but in fiction, mermaids are usually beautiful. They lure people with their siren song. They're usually beautiful. You don't care?
I want that straight fire pussy.
You just want that.
Listen, I'll just turn up the lights. Oh, I just like it's more romantic, you know, can feel each other essentially. Breathe away from me, will you? Meanwhile, you're in there like, I'm
gonna say something that is going to break this whole conversation. A blowjob from a mermaid is a winner. That's what it is, bro.
Let's leave it there.
It's GG. It's one. Yeah. You lose. You lose.
I don't, but you can. We'll just leave that one there. Right. So I can't believe that's a divide. That question. That's the question that pushed us too far. Let's have a look here. Wait there a second. Let's see.
Hey.
Private says, for people earlier into their careers, do you think it's more valuable to learn job-specific skills or learn soft skills like communication, leadership, etc.? I guess what he means, I'll rephrase that. Do you think it's better to like be really good at like stuff in the game, or is it important to learn like soft skills? Like, is that relevant? Like, he means early on. So which do you think is more important early?
I think just raw skills is better, because I think it's very difficult to talk your way into jobs. I think that you need to like bring something concrete, and usually I think it's like in terms of the soft skills, that's usually how you snowball opportunities. But to get opportunities, to get you through the door, I think it's better to just master something and really show how there are inefficiencies and how you can contribute to something better. Because I think the soft skills are too broad, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that try to like go from, let's say, traditional sports into like league coaching because they see like crossovers, but they are missing the nuance. I think it's important to have the nuance, and then like have the soft skills to snowball that into something that creates a more meaningful impact. It's like you can see the same. It's like a lot of the coaches that appear in China and also Korea, they start off as a third coach for a team, and then they build themselves into that position. It's like, I think getting yourself through the door comes through, showcasing what you're capable of first.
The funny thing is, because he specifically said earlier, I agree with you. It's almost certainly just your skills. Like, you need to prove you're actually a good player. And then, by the way, you'll have the chance to develop the rest. I will say there's a slight loophole, which is, it depends if he means early in your career, how early. Because I will say if you're at the point that you're like good in an ERL, having some soft skills, certain coaches, that will make them prefer you. Like actually the Peter Duns and those sorts of coaches do care if you are like good at comms or you have a good attitude. Or remember that story? It's a real story. Grabs literally picked Xmati over Crowley, who was a much better ADC than Xmati, because Xmati had like a better work ethic or like attitude or some shit. So at the time, that's what he thought he needed in the mix of his team, and he preferred that over skill in the game. But I do think the difference is you can learn some of the soft skills and develop that later on. The difference is the guy who's good at soft skills but doesn't have great skill in the game, I doubt you're ever going to be one of the best players. So I'm with you. I think better to be really skilled early on and then add the rest in as you go. And also, the soft skills are going to actually amplify even more the skill you have in the game. If you're really skilled in the game and then you become a good teammate, you have leadership, communicate, it's going to work even more so. If you're the shittest player on the team, it's hard to get people to listen and follow you and stuff like that, you know.
And the final tip that I would add is, like as you mentioned, Thorin, is just that being aware that it's a skill that you can train is something that is super important. Like most pro players, it's hard to convince them that it's a skill because often in terms of communicating their ideas, they see it their way, and if people don't understand, it's their problem, which in some cases can be true, but viewing it from the lens of how can I convince my teammates to play my way, and catering that to the individual is something that a lot of people would have to learn over time. Like you mentioned Crowley, like I've known him for a very long time, but I also notice in the context of his current team, just because everything is public, the way he communicates his ideas and so forth is very, very different in comparison to how he would approach it in the past. The same thing can be said for Nemesis. Maybe when he was a player on Fnatic, he was quite stubborn in the way he played, but now he is the one that is keeping everyone sane and keeping everyone together. So being very, very aware of those skills and recognizing what kind of impact you can have outside of the game is what makes long careers. It's like a player like Perks. He was successful because for the longest time, it's like he had the capacity to convince his teammates to put in the right effort and to learn the right ideas. The same thing for Mithy. Like a lot of those players that always were the usual suspects being at the top in any region, they have those exact skills.
The dog says, on gameplay alone, who is the best performing support player so far this year? Who would you pick?
And the tricky thing, I think, is Delight in Winter was just hands above everybody, just super, super insane, really, really good across the board. I think his regular split was kind of slow. I do think the conversation is always going to be, in my mind, it's Delight versus Keria. I think those are the two ones in the running. Because I do think Kyle's like rise has been steadily going up, and now he's like performing super, super good. But considering Keria had a pretty damn decent winter split, and I credit, in these times where T1 were struggling, the reason they made playoffs in a lot of cases was because of Owner and Keria. And I think Keria, at this point in time, just because of his peak now in terms of individual skill, I have to lean towards Keria.
Yeah, that was actually going to be what I was going to say. The two obvious people to me is Keria and Delight. I don't hate the Delight angle. I do think in general he's been very good. I think he's actually still the underrated name on that team. I think he's, by the way, I thought he was great when he used to be on GenG. I think he was fucking sick at that one Worlds, the one everyone dunks on him in. I'm with you though. I think I would actually side to Keria. I do think Keria is the only person on T1 I think's been world class most of the year. And as I said, he looked just as good with both of the ADCs. He was just good. He's just a really great player, and actually the point you made earlier in the episode, he's also actually leveled up as a player. Like the difference is now he can play almost anything. In fact, he's another player you wonder, has Fearless Drast forced him to be like this? Because before he could get into his own weird niche. Like half the time, Yamato, well, we say that thing about those worlds they won, like they found their own meta. It's always just Keria's meta. What happens is they realize, should we have Keria play Braum, or should we have him play like fucking Bard or something like that? Godon. Of course, you should do the latter. So I don't mind either pick. I would probably side with Keria too, though. Right. Here's a good question. Hellfire 206. Now that Umpty and Pioshik are in the former players column on Leaguepedia, who was worse? Team Liquid Pioshik or Team Liquid Umpty? Now there's a Sophie's choice, mate. Which was worse?
I think the reason this question is tricky is because for both versions of Team Liquid, I think they individually were the better player for that version. The alteration of Team Liquid that Pioshik was on was that was not a team really. They had nothing that was really cohesive about them, and they just needed players to step up. And I think most of the success of that team, like Yeon might be good now, but he really wasn't back then. He really wasn't, good at all. I would say he was lucky that there was no replacement for him, in my opinion. And GenG really stuck by him because he saw something in him in scrims that wasn't really showcasing itself in the server, because in the end that was the full Korean roster that they wanted to do with Harry and mid, and then they brought in APA, who was good on his champs, but was that was hidden by the fact that just Pioshik and Summit would pull a lot of bans. Like Summit and Pioshik would either carry games or that team would fall apart. Pioshik almost made them beat T1 at a World Championship that T1
It was
won.
game. Yeah.
I was at like a Lee Sin game, completely popped off, and that was like insanely competitive, and was part of the reason why T1's glow up in that tournament was so insane, because they were so down low, because they beat, they almost lost to Team Liquid, got crushed by GenG and so forth. But I think if Pioshik was on that championship run where Team Liquid won, I don't think Pioshik would be the right player for that, because I think that Umti, at his best, was a role player for the team and was capable of playing all the tanks and set up his team for success. But Pioshik is not consistent enough, in my opinion, to win a championship. Pioshik is a player that you want on a shit team, because on occasion he's going to play super, super good. If you are a team that contests for championship, you don't want him to go all the way there, because he's going to be trouble. Even in the time when he won the World Championship with DRX, bro, he was an anchor. Like, that was... Like the amount of nashers and buffs and misplays that he had up until that Hecarim game where he actually performed well, he was a problem. And
the joke is that's why Kindred was the perfect champion. He get invulnerable at one point in the game. Like, that is perfect for his game, bro.
Precisely. And just the final point too, it's like that KT team with Beryl and Pioshik. Once in a blue moon, they beat the best team in the region. Yes. But this is not the player that you want on a team that makes championship runs. And I think the pain point for Umti is just that he stayed for a longer time, and I think this year puts a bigger damper on his stint in Team Liquid. If I just look year by year, I think. Umti for Team Liquid, if you want to win a championship, it just made more sense. Tough question.
First of all, as overall players, which wasn't the question, Pioshik clears Umti in a way that's not even worth fucking discussing. But I also think it applies to them in Team Liquid. Because I'm with you. As much as Pioshik obviously has an appalling flaw to his game, even though he very rarely touches it, his ceiling is way better than Umti's. Umti, for me, his best job was to be invisible and just be like an all-right jungler that just did what Core JJ said. And back in Korea, by the way, there's worlds of difference as well. Umti was just an all-right player who's maybe on a bad team. Pioshik's been on some very good teams and sometimes been a problem child, but also had the moments where he's also shone occasionally, and he certainly has. He's like, for me, he's more like a 1-1-3 player. He can win you the game, but he can lose you the game too. Umti's just more some like boring-ass jungler that just does, dog jungler that just does what he's told, And I think actually it was trying to do carry games and picks that fucked his whole career up. I think that was a mistake. So I unfortunately, I think even in TL, people might not remember Pioshik fondly, but I'm with you. They almost beat T1 thanks to this guy. It was him who was doing it as well. He was going really fucking hard in that game. It was, if you go back, it was game 1 of 2023 Worlds. Look it up. Tallahassee Riot Supervisor. How do the Worlds hype videos compare to other sports or other esports or traditional sports? What do you think?
I think the advantage always is like the narrative you're selling, right? I think that Riot has been extremely fucking lucky. The fact that the storyline of Faker seems to like reemerge. It's like some of the videos that you do at the World Championship, like the famous Chovy versus Faker one. Like that shit, the quality of the production is insane. And that's something that you can see across to other sports in some cases. I think UFC is something that stands out to me in terms of like the build up to fights because the selling of the fights is so important. But I think the fact that the narratives have just played out perfectly for Riot, whether it was like DRX and Deft and Faker going to the same school and then playing a final against each other, like Riot has been so so lucky with how the narratives played out, and I do think that at Worlds they have managed to really sell that super well. I think there's points of comparisons at that level, but I made the point about UFC. Like, there's the storylines in UFC. There's so many other ones that are just fucked due to injuries, due to John Jones ducking, or so much politics in terms of what fights are happening and not happening that are just frustrating to see. But that's like the nature of the game. Like, it's just unfortunate, and at the same time, like, fight politics in terms of preserving, your guy. So I think in terms of selling and in terms of narratives, like, I do think that the world's productions are like at the top. But maybe I'm missing some sports.
No, I actually think that, like, they're very hit and miss in League of Legends. Like, I'll give you an example. I think the video they made before the finals of last year's Worlds was mega. That one where it was like Faker, like the cup belongs
In
to
the
the fans,
cinema, yeah.
and the thing with BLG, that was really dope. That was a very well done piece. But it's like you say, a lot of that is locking into the ongoing shonen anime narrative of fucking Faker. Like, if you didn't have Faker, I think you would actually see that League's done a very spotty job on champions and highlighting the right people going into tournaments, etc. I do think sports is like in esports, by the way, the king of all time is Korean Brood War. People don't know. Those intros are just goated. Like, they even have so many different styles of intros. They actually did early on do them in OGN and LCK. It's just they stopped really giving a fuck about that for some bizarre reason. I don't know why. I thought it was one of the coolest things of the split. It would get you hyped. It was a great way to show off the stars. You can also show in those hype videos who the established champion is, even when he's not the best, that you can have them on a throne. You can have the up-and-coming players. So that becomes, by the way, cool in future seasons when they do become the top players, that they get, like, early on, they're just in it for 2 seconds. Then the next year, they're in it for 5 seconds. You know what I mean? You can build the narrative almost like the intro to a soap opera in that sense. But I think sports plays it so hard. I mean, the obvious one, like you said, is the UFC. The UFC is unbelievable at hype trailers and picking out, like, the right moment of trash talk with the knockout, with, them celebrating, with them going through injury. Or they just nail all the, like, classic sports archetypes. So I think sports wins on this one. Sports wins.
I also can add, like, outside of Worlds, if I just look at First Stand and the narratives that they tried to build there and like how they tried to execute, like, those hype videos were very poorly made.
Yeah, it wasn't
like
good.
very poorly made. The audio seemed strange. It was like, it's Code JJ, fucking AI. Like, what's happening? So it was very strange. I have the same concern as you. It's like, without Faker, what are the stories that they're trying to sell? It's like there's so many storylines that are ongoing that we often talk about that just don't get told, like the Tarzan one as an example, or like Knight versus Chovy, or Knight versus Chovy versus Caps in terms of just domestic dominance for the last 3 years or 2 years. Like, those are storylines that don't get,
You know
like,
what? They almost never do.
much.
Essentially, what we do on these shows, they never even veer into Yamato. Aside from that Worlds one, which was very limited, they tend to just do stuff like either they tie it to the game and it's like, hey, look, Knight plays Syndrel. It's like, who gives a fuck about that? Or it's some stupid shit like, I want to win for the LPL. It's like, no, what you need is the actual narrative. Like, I'll give you an example. If I was making a hype trailer for this LEC playoffs, here's what you would do. You'd take the upper bracket teams, because they're the 4 big names, and you'd have Carmine Corp, like, first in the regular split, can they go back to back and repeat and establish that there wasn't a fluke? Then you have Fnatic, like, they never win. It's their time to win now. G2, everyone counted them out, barely made the playoffs. Are they still a champion? For MCoy, everyone said it was El Yoya's vanity project with his friends. Like, mate, those storylines would bang if you put them in. Like, that'd be fucking straight fire. Because that also establishes what, you're not just who you're watching, but what the angles are for all the teams. Then you already know going in as a casual fan, right? Fuck, I'm in. I've got all that. That's all the, like, drive to survive shit right there, mate. That's what you want to know, like, what the rivalries are, what the stakes are for all the teams. Whereas instead they do just tend to do it like fucking just like a bad intro to a soap opera. This character's played by this guy, and then this guy's here, Caps is here as well. Like, I think you have to do something special with it personally. Ramo 16, we'll do 2 more. Ramo 1618. Would the cynical Riot move be to make the Shy the 3rd inductee into the Hall of Legends? He's been rated the most popular player in the LPL for 6 years, could easily check the box for influence, and would sell like a motherfucker. What do you think?
I think it's plausible, for sure. Like if they're going by the same metrics, which is just like popularity, and then probably they want some kind of a champion spread, role spread, because they need to think about the angle of where can they sell skins and that whole idea too. I do think the Shy in terms of popularity should be one of those guys. We mentioned Clear Love the last time we talked about this. I think the IG superstars are like also like next in line, whether it's Jackie Love, the Shy, or of course Rookie. So I still hope that they move away from this recipe and bring out classes that represent something, because I think that would just make more sense. And I think it's very, very easy to build out a story through this fucking pass that they are selling, to just say, oh, this is the superstars of 2018. And then they just ship in all the players, because eventually, like, you're going to run out. Like the first numbers that we saw, I saw them posted on Reddit that like Uzi's skin sold like 3 million in like the opening week. And that was told as something like insane, but I didn't think that was too much. I didn't think that was like that's like one of your final hurrahs in terms of monetization, and you're not going to generate that much at that price point. It's not too crazy in my opinion, because I remember some of the numbers of some older skins of certain champions that people enjoyed, and I remember numbers being floated where it was like 12, 24 millions on a skin that was just released in the context of the game with no big story, no big advertisement push, because in terms of the money that they put in pushing this, I must think that it's almost like comparable, even though they use their own vehicles for advertising Hall of Legends, right? It was on every. I saw it on LPL, I saw it on LCK, I saw it on LEC. It was everywhere, and it's also in the client perma, and that's of course obviously on paper doesn't cost them anything, but that is their prime real estate. And if that advertising space was used for other things, they would have made a shit ton of money. So I'm having all these calculations in my mind, and I don't think it's too crazy. But back to the initial question, yes, I think it's plausible. It's plausible.
I just think it's very unlikely, because even though he gives all those reasons, I don't think, again, the reason why Uzi I was obvious is because China's massive, but also it's just his famous, like, if you asked people describe Uzi I in a sentence, people would say the second best player after Faker. That was just a famous thing that was associated with him. So I think if you're going along those lines and you're trying to make it a mixture of like popularity, some massive name value, but also the idea, presumably you want to sell some skins. You don't want like some obscure skin that no one gives a fuck about. I actually think if we're going to say fuck it with Uzi I and already skip the list, just go to caps. Make a cap skin, whatever you want it to be. Could be a Syndra, could be all sorts of shit. Pick whatever it might be and make cap skin. That's if Europe sells, though. If we're going, by the way, off other regions, remember, because Faker's not retired, we can pick active players. Why not pick Chovy? There's a million Chovy skins you can make. And then the obvious one for China for me would be Zhao Hu. I mean, just look how long the guy's been around. With him, you can even do a cool thing. He's got the whole Tiger King of Spring. Make a little like Tony the Tiger skin or some shit like that for Lucian. You know what I mean? That would be a banger, right? So I'd do something like that personally. I don't hate the Shy pick. I just don't think it will be the pick, basically. Like that whole thing about he's the most popular in China. I don't think they're as aware of that. I think that's a Riot guys are fucking from NA, mate. I don't think they know that shit. Right, we'll do one last question. So let me just have a look. Let's see. I'm trying to find one that's really good. Let's see.
I have a question for you. If
go on,
because now it's basically official that Navi is joining, right? And I think like I've been seeing Dendy play League of Legends. Probably they're gonna prop him up as like the co-streamer to find like synergy and so forth. But
Dendy isn't involved with Navi anymore, by the way. He has his own team. He has a team called Bait from Ukraine, yes.
Oh, shit. Well,
so unfortunately, that won't be happening, I don't think, mate.
Oh, shit. That's probably not happening then. Yeah. But my question to you in terms of Navi, like everyone's excited because Rogue is out, but in terms of as an org, what can you tell me about like Navi as an org, especially like in CS? Because they had like that super run, but then it like dwindled. And I remember like I saw like comments, people were like being angry at the CEO guys, like, "Oh, fuck this org." I was like, "What the hell? Like, what is the story here? I wanna know the story. Like, what's the Navi story?"
Two stories. It was G2 CEO. Everyone was mad at. I'm not really sure what you're referring to. Everyone was mad at the Navi CEO.
No, basically, like I saw that maybe I'm wrong. That's why I'm asking. You know, what is the Navi story in terms of like as an org coming into league? What are your expectations, and what are some stories that we should know about
Well,
Navi
one thing I
in
will
terms of
say
how they
is
are historically over the past
I
years?
don't think they will be like the biggest spender. Like one of the benefits of being from what was called the CIS region is you tend to pay people less money there overall. Now, look, once your player becomes a global superstar like Simple or something, yeah, you have to pay mega bucks then because you could obviously go to any team. He speaks English, right? So I would expect there'll be more like a team where if I had to guess, there'll be more like fourth or fifth biggest, budget spent, etc. Also, I don't think League will ever be the biggest game. If people don't know, in Eastern Europe, Dota is actually bigger than CS and League, as far as I can tell. But it's weird. When I used to go to actual LAN tournaments in like Ukraine and Russia, everyone was there for Dota. It felt like, mate. And then if they were there for CS, like it was more like that was the secondary game, So I don't know that Leagues is huge there. So it's more like an international project for me with this. I think that there'll be like a good org. The key thing for me is they are a true, like in the modern day, they're a legacy org. They began in 2010, so they've been around quite a long time now. They've been quite good in most of the games they've cared about. I would say the difference is this happened in Counter-Strike with OG. OG from Dota came in with this like legendary Dota team, and everyone for 2 years was like, they're so legendary, they're going to make a legendary CS team. They never even got close to a legendary CS team, mate, because it's a different game. So I don't know how much they know the League of Legends space. Obviously, they were only in it like a cup of coffee back in 2012, basically, if you go back a million years. So that's not really relevant to modern League. I would just say it's I'm glad they're coming in because as far as I know, it's a proper esports business that actually has proper backing, massive fan base, by the way. In CS, even when their team is bad, they always bring massive viewership because loads of Eastern European people will watch, basically. It's the same with Brazilians in CS. You don't even have to be good. You just get all the fans. So I think it will bring some viewership. I don't actually know what they'll do with the costume angle, if they'll have their own approach. Maybe it can also increase viewership in Eastern Europe. I don't know. The bigger thing for me is I just think they're a way better org than Rogue. Definitely a much better run org. And Rogue had just become so bad competitively. I just wanted real orgs into the league. That's the key thing. I just want the real teams that are actually know what they're doing, because then I can trust. It doesn't matter if a real org has a bad team now, you can get back to a good team. A bad org, they can, as Rogue did, you can fuck up a good team, mate. That's how bad they are run. So I wouldn't expect it, like the world to change, but I would expect it'll just make the playoffs more interesting. Like I'd rather have them in than the Herex of the world. I don't give a fuck about teams like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I just saw. Maybe it's just like some random Twitter comments, right? But I just saw that someone was unhappy about like how the CS dynasty was ran with. I'm just talking shit. It was like
No,
about
as far as
benching
I can
players or
tell,
whatever.
no, the main problem with the CS dynasty is this, is that one, the literal Ukraine-Russia conflict broke out right when they were at their peak. And it
Oh
just
shit.
meant that, like, essentially, the moment that those Russian players in their team weren't as good anymore, it was obvious to move them because it's so unpopular to have those players in your team. Even though, by the way, those players in theory did a lot of things right, like they did stuff like told people take my flag off, and I won't say I represent Russia, and I'll never comment on the war, etc. But even so, it's just very unpopular. Unsurprisingly, Ukrainian people didn't want Russian players in their teams, and Navi is Ukrainian esports, by the way. They're huge in that sense. They just are the team. And then what happened was last year they had a team where on paper they should never have been number one. They didn't even have a contender for best player in the world, but their coach and their in-game leader are amazing. And so they were able to sort of like make a sort of, it was more like an MCOY type squad. You were just able to make a squad without the best players, like synergize well together. So they were actually the number one team. The problem they had was because they won a lot of championships last year, they just kept the same roster the whole of this year where they haven't made any of the finals basically. And the downside there is just that like, they're just not as good anymore, but they really shouldn't have been the best last year. So I think it's more, I don't think there's any problem personally in CS. What I would do if I were them is, I think you're going to get knocked out in the quarterfinals now at this major. You just make a CS roster move, and then you, by the way, it's possible they even bring Simple back themselves. Technically, he's still under contract with them. He's just on loan to FaZe. But I actually think that's what's exciting about Simple's revival. You can either bring Simple back in and bring a massive name and go for the top again, or you can go a different route and sell him to FaZe. So I don't think in CS people are that bad. I think it's more just that they want the roster move to happen now and they know they're not good anymore. But aside from that,
Okay.
it's all good. Right, I
Okay.
think we'll do as a last question. Let's see. Right, here's the last question. Morguina says, how important do you think that professional playing experience translates into effective coaching? Can you be as good of a coach having not been a player at the same level? What do you think?
I think it kind of circles back to our previous question, right? It's like in terms of the soft skills and developing them. I do think that there's definitely player archetypes where they're just super skilled and they are going to find success because they're just good in the game. But there's definitely players that warp teams around them, and I think to some degree that requires like indirect coaching. It's like convincing your teammates to play a certain way and to buy into your ideas is basically what coaching is, because you are uniting 5 players behind an identity. Like if we think of a player like Perks, like if he transitioned into coaching post G2 era, I think this is a player that could really like push his players. Mythy is a good example also of being able to help supports reach new highs. And every Mythy team that he was on was playing Mythy League of Legends pretty much. I do think that's like the main detail. Like if you just have like a mechanical demon that is like performing super good, like let's say Hans Sama. Like I can't imagine Hans Sama being like a great coach. At the same time, it's like people are saying that he's very vocal in game, but he plays a very narrow way of playing the game, which can be good sometimes. But I don't see a world where Hans Sama, for example, as a player, would be a great coach post his career, even though he's had a very successful player career. Another great example is Mata. It's like where everyone talked about how he changed League of Legends completely, because he did, with, of course, Samsung back in 2014. And in the end now, he's also a fantastic coach with very obvious, impact on the teams that he's working on. And I think it's just a question of, are you a player that warps the way you play, or are you just a skilled player that is in the game contributing mechanically?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I would actually also go the other way and say I actually think most really good pro players would be very ineffective coaches for exactly the reasons you're saying. I mean, let's just think of, by the way, the joke would be, think of some of the names we just referenced. I think Uzi and the Shy would be some of the worst coaches to ever work in fucking esports history. Like, these guys really would be on some like, right, first things first, just smash the lane and solo kill the other guy 4 times. What are you talking about, you lunatic? That's not even coaching. Like, what? So I think they would be terrible. I think much like in sports, if you notice, the best league coaches who were former players are nearly all junglers and supports. And that's because those are roles that are about team coordination, communication, who has priority, who should be the carry of the team, how do we pivot, how do you make up a draft, etc. These guys are almost like tailor-made to do that role. I also think, by the way, those people need to have a special connection with their coaches. They can't, like, your jungler can't be the guy that you'd have no idea what's going on in his head and he's just off in the corner doing something. You have to have an idea of what his game plan is. Why does he do this? Why does he gank then? What does he need from other people? And then, so in my opinion, you're either a jungler or support, or the third one is you're just someone who would have just been an analyst. You're just a nerd, but then you develop some of the soft skills we're talking about. Like, example there would be like Dylan Falco. These are the people where it doesn't matter that Dylan Falco was never a pro. He's one of the goated coaches in the West. He's fucking unbelievable. Spawn, these people just put in mega long hours learning for years and years. And then they also worked on how to be like the right sort of coach for their style and how to communicate with their stars and get buy-in from people. So I think it's one of those things that's always really exaggerated. And by the way, understandably, the most exaggerating people in this sense are the players themselves. They all think, by the way, like the Whippo, I made fun of that, but half the pro players think that shit, that like, I'd be the best coach in year one. Like, the best example of why you wouldn't is Mythy. Mythy has everything except the social skills that we're talking about that you'd want on top of it. You couldn't get someone with a better mind for the game, a better amazing track record. As a player, here's what Mythy had to learn. A lot of the buy-in he was getting is because of how dope he was at the game. That's why his teammates, when he was a player, listened to him. But what he had to learn as the coaches, they're not seeing me every day be right in every VOD review. They're not seeing me play the game with them and make the call. So when I come to them, they're treating me like I'm just a suit, like I'm a guy who has to convince them, and that's different. That's a different dynamic. So I think in general, like, I don't think it's that relevant. I think it's more what type of player you were is the interesting thing. I actually think most pro players wouldn't be a good coach.
I can also add from my side, because like I transitioned from player to, of course, coach. Like I wasn't super successful in my player career. It's like I had moments where I was good, but I was never the best player in my role. Like there were certain methods I did well in, but my main skill was finding the best players. It's like all the best players in Europe history, I probably played with them on a team at some point. It's like I played with Reckless really early on in his career. I was one of the first teams together with Sven. I played with Bjergsen when he just moved for EU Nordic East and he came over to Europe West. I was like, this guy's fucking insane. I want to play with him. Like my skill set was surrounding myself with players that were way better than me. And to translate, it was like I knew who was good and who could be good. And that was very, very helpful to me as I moved into the coaching role later down the line.
That's going to be the last question. Here's the thing: we will come back in the future and do more episodes, obviously. And by the way, we'll figure this out. I'll have to see with Yamato if he wants to do one, but maybe we'll even do one of those preview episodes where we have like people come on to tell us about who's good from fucking LTA and shit like that. Maybe we'll do something like that. But we'll figure out some other angle for content. By the way, another thing we can do on other episodes before it gets to MSI, we can also add some more viewer questions too. We're going to do that as well. There's always angles. There'll always be news. So we'll be back for a future episode.
Gig up MSI one, a gig up banger MSI preview. That would be sick,
Let's do it. We'll set it up. Right. See you on the next one.